...2018 Monza Rally Show, as we do battle very shortly for the Marco Simoncelli Trophy with a series of head-to-head rally stages on this very special track here on the Monza Grand Prix circuit. There's some historical circuits here in northern Italy. We've got some real stars. Valentino Rossi, the nine-time motorcycle world champion, here to defend his title in the Monza Rally stages, and in the Masters show he's been a winner as well. And we have Tony Cairoli, motocross world star. We have stars from the world of rallying and two-wheel action and GT racing as well. But we've had a great start to this event. This was Thursday, the official launch event at the Piazza Duomo in Milan, around 30 kilometres south of Monza, in front of this cathedral, the fourth largest cathedral in the world. We had this showcase for the start of the 2018 event. Toyota, who won the Manufacturers World Rally Championship, Hyundai, who took Thierry Neuville to second place in this year's WRC, Citroën, and Ford, who of course took Sébastien Ogier and Julien Ingrassia to their sixth consecutive title, all represented. Friday was the first day of official action and the historic banking here at this circuit, which was first founded back in 1922, over 90 years ago. The exhibition grid, where the fans got a chance to get up close and personal to the cars and to the drivers. Timo Sunninen there, the star of this year's World Rally Championship, 12th for M Sport in his first season, and on the podium in Portugal. And the number one car, Piero Longhi, who's been here many times, his 16th Monza Rally. That was the driver that set the scene, got the action underway. And Valentino Rossi, of course, who has got 7 titles here in the Monza Stages Rally. 9-stage competition held over 3 days. Tony Cairoli, another star. Valentino Rossi, though, got off to a fabulous start. He won the very first stage, a short stage, by just under a second. Timo Sunninen was in his first appearance tackling the new jump there, you'll see much more of on the course, and he was second to Valentino Rossi on the first stage of action. Into the night then for the second stage, just under 12 kilometres long, and Rossi won that one by almost 6 seconds. On board with Alessandro Bosca, who was third on the podium in his class in 2017, the R5 category. You see just how they tackle the night stages here with his co-driver Roberto Aresca. At the end of day one, though, Rossi, the overnight leader, 7 seconds clear of Timo Sunninen after 2 stages. On to Saturday, and a much longer, busier day ahead with 4 stages, starting with including the Grand Prix stage, 44 kilometres long, all the stages taking in most of the Grand Prix circuit and much of the old banking stages as well. The first stage would be the 9 kilometre long Parabolica stage. Timo Sunninen having a problem, crashing at the chicane, damage to the left rear corner of the car. There's the onboard with his moment, tackling this Monza Rally for the first time, and he got back, made the chicane, so didn't get a penalty, but did drop 12 seconds. He still finished second in the stage, but he dropped, as I say, over 12 seconds to Valentino Rossi, who was unbeaten at this point in the rally. And he followed that up with victory in stages 4, 5 and 6. After 2 days of rallying, he was unbeaten and some 49.6 seconds clear of Sunninen by the end of day 2. On to today then, and Valentino Rossi with 3 more stages to defend his lead, his growing leads in the competition. We started the day with the second run around the long 44-kilometre Grand Prix stage. Some slow-mos of this new jump which features. They're going to be running the jump the other way around in the Masters show that you'll see this afternoon, but they'll be getting airborne. Somebody who's well used to getting airborne is Tony Cairoli in the 222 car, and coming into this part of the rally, he was running 3rd in his class, having a fearsome battle for the R16 class lead. Matteo Crossoni there on the number 20 car, slow-mo on the jump on the WR16 category. So a huge crowd gathered over the last 3 years here. 55,000 fans coming to see this fantastic showcase. So there were some highlights from the first few days of action. The 9 stages of the Monza Rally, which was first founded back in the late 1970s in 1978. More recently, we've had this Masters show where the top runners from each of the categories run on this special stage, a series of head-to-head categories. And we are going to see concentrate on action from the top 3 categories that are here. The WRC Plus category for the beefier, more powerful modern-day World Rally cars with around about 380 brake horsepower. There's WR16 category for the slightly less powerful but still World Rally spec cars. And we have got the R5 category, which has been fiercely contested as well. They're the categories that we're going to concentrate on. We will have the final of the R3 category as well, and the R2 category. We're just seeing the last runs, though, from the historic category, which have been, again, fiercely contested with Porsches, Lancias and the like contesting the 9 stages of rallying for a separate set of trophies. So this is the final runs for them. And to introduce the commentary team for you, my name's Chris Hartley, and we're based in the commentary box overlooking the pit lane, which is used as part of the lap, or one of the laps that's used for the Monza Masters show. And the interesting thing that you'll notice is off the start line, they run in opposite directions. So they each do 2 laps, although later on in the finals we'll have longer runs of 3 laps. But they run in opposite directions over the 2 laps. So one heads off mainly using the circuit, one heads off starting in the pit lane, and then they cross over midway through. So I'm Chris Hartley, and I'm very delighted to say that joining me in the commentary box, I think for the 3rd year running now, it's a very good afternoon to Gianluca Nataloni.
Good afternoon, Chris, and good afternoon to all our listeners tuning in right now. As Chris said, we are in the finals of the cars having done the Monza Rally Historic Show. Cars that you are now seeing live are the Lancia 037 of Bianchini Darderi against the Porsche 911 of Brusori Tridici. We've had Group 2 already, which has been won by the Porsche of Musti Fraschetta. Group 3 has been won by former F1 driver Alessandro Caffi with Superti. And we still have 1 heat to run after this one, which will be the final of the Group 4 J2, and will oppose the Subaru Legacy of Salvatore Riolo, Gianfranco Rappa, who have won the event, won the overall classification of the Monza Historic Rally. Strangely enough, as Riolo self-admitted, he has won rally on a circuit with a 4-wheel drive car, and he will be against the BMW M3 of Gabriele Nobrasco, who is a gentleman driver with a great career and who used to be nicknamed Odeon because he likes to put on a show.
And these are sort of bonus runs for us, because actually running ever so slightly behind schedule with the event, there was rather a large podium, which we'll talk about in a few moments' time for the main stages rally. So we were due to start our coverage with the R3 final, but you're going to get a bit of bonus coverage because they're running behind with the first look at the course using, as we said, these historics. We're also going to take in shortly the final of the R2 category, which we'll talk about, and they can see some of the hazards of the tight hairpin sections here on the handbrakes. If you get it wrong, you lose an awful lot of time, and so it should be, yes, a fairly convincing victory by 1.5 seconds for the number 2 Walnut 3 car, the Porsche, versus the Lancia. So Brusori well clear in the end of Bianchini in the Lancia Rally 037. We've got the J2 category Group 4 cars coming up next, and that will be a Subaru versus a BMW M3, starting in the pit lane for the first lap for the next race. The next category head-to-head is going to be the 218 car. That's the Subaru, the Legacy sedan, and the driver for the next battle will be Salvatore Riolo, partnered by Gianfrancesco Rappa, and then now going up against right next to them, the BMW car number 908, Gabriele Nobrasco and Niccolo Nobrasco are partnering that, so it's an all-Italian affair. They can see them coming up out onto the circuit now. First of all, some donuts from the Porsche. And in terms of the stages rally, which has been going on for the last 3 days, well, we know Valentino Rossi is a 7 times MotoGP world champion. They come in there tens of thousands to come and see him. And he has 7, coming into this year, 7 Monza rally victories, and he's won the last 3, 16, 2017 and 2018, because 15, 16, well, we're on the trot now because he won earlier on, and really Gianluca, he's dominated, hasn't he? All but one stage he won, and the other one he was tied, so he's undefeated so far this weekend.
Yes. Well, Teemu Suuninen, who's obviously a regular of the World Rally Championship, has tackled his first full season this year with the WRC Plus spec machinery, and is already known to be with Ford M Sport for next season. Has obviously done a very, very good job, but self-admitted that it's not usual, despite him having some sort of karting background. It's not really easy to get to grips with such an event for the first time. It has been a lot of fun, he said. He has been very good practice for the hairpins and the tight corners and the sort of City Super Special stage, which we're becoming more and more familiar with in the World Rally Championship events. But for sure he said that he lacked a bit of experience, and to battle with on an even level with Valentino on an event that Valentino has been doing. I think he's missed maybe once or two times he hasn't been here since his first time, which was 20 years ago.
Yes, that long ago, isn't it? Yeah. And it's 12 years ago since he first won it back in 06. 8 titles for him now. He's won the Masters Show a couple of times as well. He usually gets to the latter stages. Let's enjoy this historic contest, though. It's looking pretty close from what we can see. We'll wait till the split times come up, but they both look neat and tidy to me, at least. The BMW in particular. The Subaru taking over the jump now. Which we're going to talk lots more about. It's a brand new feature for the Masters Show this year, and one I think which will go down well with the fans, and it will prove to be pretty spectacular. It's just on the other side of the pit wall, and the art of coming into this is where you can really lose a lot of time, isn't it, Gianluca? Coming into this hairpin section, we've seen lots and lots of times over the last few years drivers just attacking that a bit too much, oversteering and losing the back end of the car coming out of it.
We've seen rallies being won or lost in the final stages and in all these tricky chicanes. For sure here the battle is not really on even grounds, insofar as Salvatore Riolo has a 4-wheel drive and a turbo against an aspirated and 2-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive BMW. I was noticing that Gabriele Noberasco, despite being nicknamed Odeon, as we said previously, is actually trying to keep it nice and tidy.
Yes.
So it might not look as spectacular seen from outside. For sure there is still some ice action going on, and you can see that Gabriele too, just like Salvatore Riolo, they are quite expert on this event. So his second lap just finished.
It's going to be a pretty convincing victory, as you say. This circuit, you need to be tidy. One of the drivers that I'm sure we're going to see in action later on, as we wait for the flag to come out, is Rhys Yates, who's the only British contender here, and Rhys, who's going to be back in WRC and WRC2 next year. It's his first time in the class that he's in this year. He was in the R5 class, so he's got a bit of a taste of the Monza Rally, but he says, I'm going to look like the most boring driver out there when I smoke. Oh, a bit wide, there you go, attacking too much. It's the exit where you need to be quick, not the entry to the hairpins. And there's a case of just how little room for play there is. So the line, Riola losing a bit of time there. He was over 5 seconds clear at the halfway stage. It's still just under 6 seconds at the flag, so 5.73 seconds the victory by, despite that little hiccup right towards the end. We had a bit of time to play with. But yeah, Rhys Yates, when I spoke to him this morning, saying, you have to be super accurate around here. And he said, it's very different to a normal rally where you're flinging the car around and getting it sideways. That doesn't work here. Drifting doesn't work in terms of the speed. And he reckoned, actually, it was quite an interesting point. That was maybe one of the many reasons why Valentino Rossi is so good around here, because with a non-rally background, although he's done plenty of that over the last 2 decades, as we've discussed. His style is very much accurate, and Tony Cairoli to a point as well. Get it out of the corner and then squirt the throttle rather than sliding it through the corners.
Absolutely. I mean, here precision is of the essence, and you expect that more of a circuit driver than of a proper rally driver, whereby you get into a corner but you never really know. You don't always know what the corner is actually going to throw at you, and that's the first nice set of donuts that we're seeing. After having seen the first set of tires being knocked down and back across the track. And may I take this opportunity to take a hat off to the marshals, invaluable, priceless, and without whom no motorsport event could ever happen, and ready as always, to jump into action, put the track back in pristine order very quickly.
There's quite a lot of that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of that, and there's
a lot of chicanes that have been moved over the last 3 days.
Yeah, but it's actually, I spoke to some of the drivers doing the Grand Prix stage, and they were saying that it surprised them how they would at one lap find a chicane that had been knocked open or slightly misplaced, and come back the following round and bear in mind that we're talking about a 44-kilometer stage whereby there's might have 20, 25 or plus cars on track at the same time. So it's not the...
Traffic's definitely an issue, isn't it, in the stages rally?
Especially because you don't know what's going to come at you. I mean, when you're marshalling on a normal rally, you can expect a car to come every minute or every 2 minute on gravel, so you can sort of judge the amount of time you have left before next car comes into action. But here, and especially at night, kudos to them, because they're done really top job.
Long days. So this is the R2 final. So the 115 car is the Peugeot, the red and white Peugeot of Damiano Di Tommaso, and Tommaso Chiuffi is driving the number 116 car, which is the Peugeot that you see there. So this is the head-to-head between them. Now, based on the results of the 9 stages over the Monza stage rallies that we've seen for the last 3 days, Damiano Di Tommaso is going to take some stopping here, isn't he? Because he's absolutely shown this week. He's won every stage in his category, and he led the rally from start to finish in his class. So it's been very impressive, hasn't he?
Yeah. One thing that is impressive is that this duel between these two crews has been going on the whole season in the Italian Championship. Damiano Di Tommaso won the Peugeot Trophy last year, whereby he was promoted this year to a works drive in the Peugeot team alongside the likes of Paolo Andreucci. And he won, after a year-long battle, he won the Junior Championship against Tommaso Ciuffi, who in turn secured the Peugeot Trophy and will therefore inherit from the works drive with the Peugeot team in the 2019 Italian Championship. Damiano began rallying very young. He took advantage of the possibility to do circuit rallying in Italy. He was very young. Well, they both are very young, but also they are amongst the most experienced. Damiano Di Tommaso has been part of the AC Team Italia junior program and contested also rounds of the World Rally Championship, exactly like Tommaso, who this year again tackled Rally Italia Sardinia, the Italian round of the World Championship, always driving his Peugeot 208.
Yeah. Di Tommaso with a almost 2-second advantage after the first of 2 laps, 1.94 seconds. Looking good so far. As the nose pointed in, gets on the accelerator of the Peugeot, quickly on the brakes. The right rear just lifting off the tarmac momentarily as the opponent, the 116 car of Chiuffi, has been very second best to Di Tommaso in the stages rally, but this is very different. This is a one-off, a head-to-head, which lasts just a few minutes. And there you can see now, hard on the brakes, taking some speed through the chicane with no problems, and then slowing it down for the right-hand, left-hand chicane. Actually run off the circuit there onto the, almost onto the grass as part of the course. Coming in here, and he looks very precise, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's one thing that you can notice from these images is the amount of precision you have to do, especially when you're fine-tuning the car setup. You see it's so stiff in the rear that the inner rear wheel tends to lift off in the very tight corners, and then you have to balance it with the handling of the car in the fast sections. The importance of this rally is that there is a mix between slow and fast sections, so getting the setup right is really of the essence.
Well, 2.61 seconds was the advantage in the end, so didn't make it quite as much time on the second lap. Was just about 7/10 quicker on the second lap. The first lap was where all the damage was done, and De Tomaso taking the victory in the head-to-head between the two Peugeots. Not a huge surprise that, and given how well he's driven all weekend long, really, quite fitting that De Tomaso takes the victory. And I mentioned as well to Giorgio Ascaloni, who has an equally difficult job and has done equally well in the passenger seat, looking after the notes and guiding the driver around the course. And showman light there, this is stunt driving now, isn't it? He's out of the car and waving to the crowd, who are absolutely loving this here, right in front of the main grandstands, and keeping it rolling all the time. So terrific effort that.
It's worth saying that Damiano's time with a total time of 3:12.63 is actually the second fastest so far. He's only been beaten by Musti, who won the first heat in Group 2. He's actually been almost a full second faster than Salvatore Riolo with a four-wheel drive car.
Yes.
So it says something about the level of dedication and performance that these cars have. These cars had been allowed for many years on the Monza Rally Show before they were banned a couple of years ago towards more powerful machinery. We used to have the Super 2000, N4 and R4 cars. They've been brought back this year, and it says something that the level of performance that they can show, albeit on a short stage like this one, you know, compared in equal conditions, because they're running immediately after the other cars and not maybe 1 or 2 hours apart as it might have happened on the rally. It says something about the performance and dedication of these drivers.
Absolutely right. So this is now the R3 final before we move up to the World Rally cars. So number 121 as they get underway is Alex Vitellini, who is somebody else that's dominated his categories, won every round, every stage so far this weekend, and won the stages rally. So easily qualified for the Masters show. So he's in the Citroën, and up against the number 125 car in this one, which is Riccardo Pedazzani, who's in the Renault Clio. Pedazzani also victorious in the stages rally, led it from start to finish, didn't win every stage but won most of them, won 7 out of the 9. Only Maurizio Santalucia able to defeat him this weekend with a couple of stage victories, one at the end of the day yesterday and one at the start of today around the longer stages. So there is the 125 car of Pedazzani, and clearly looking pretty good so far. That's the car which won the R3C category, and the R3T category was the category won by his opponent in the 121 car, the Citroën of Vitellini. So two class champions from the Stages Rally going head-to-head over the jump, and no problems there. Getting airborne, we'll see a lot more of that with the more power coming in. And we'll talk about a slight change to the class structure this year amongst the more powerful cars when we get to it shortly. And an extra final, we've got a super final coming up, so it's going to be a slightly different not just course that we've got, but the way the Masters show pans out with these series of head-to-heads. We won't be going straight into finals for the other categories. There's a series of heats. The top 4 in the busier categories will go through to a semi-final, then head-to-heads to go through to the final. And let's have a look at the split time, 2.07 seconds. So Vitellini continuing his unbeaten run here, and it's going to be very difficult in less than 2 minutes to try and claw 2 seconds back, Gianluca. That really, he's going to be relying on a mistake from his opponent, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, but I mean, we are really talking about different class of cars here. If you consider that on the final results of the rally, Riccardo Pedazzani finished a couple of minutes adrift of Alex Vitellini, and with both, as you said, being winners in their respective class. Riccardo is a very young, very fast and very talented driver. Alex is more experienced. He's won some rallies, won some overall wins, and Riccardo is one of the up-and-coming stars. This final between cars of different categories, although they both are 3, but one is aspirated, the other one is turbocharged. Atmospheric, sorry, the other one is turbocharged. Really shows a bit more difference, and it shows, which also showed by the total time of both crews at the end of the rally.
Yeah, more horsepower, even though that won't be as telling around this special Masters Show course that we have, as it is around some of the longer stage rallies that they've been running.
I think here it's more a fact of a turbo and getting faster out of the hairpins. Yes.
Certainly not an issue as the Leclerc makes its way through chicane, right, left, splinting on the gas now, heading under the tower, and for the clock to stop, and 3 minutes 14.15 seconds, almost 3 seconds the margin of victory for the turbo-powered Citroën Vitellini. So excellent result that, and again not too surprising, but still it was a good show put up by his opponent Perezzani. A second and a half per lap, the difference between them, but the Citroën coming out on top ahead of the Renault to win the R3 final at 3 minutes 14.15. So that was just about 1.5 seconds slower than the winner of the R2's De Tomaso with that 3 minute 12. Not that they're going up against each other, but just for fun. Right, so WRC 1600 is the category where we're now going to get a series of heats. The first of them, they can see the rather slightly battered looking number 6 car, and that is Stefano Dast, and he's the Citroën DS3, and he's going to be going up against Piero Longhi. He's in his 17th rally now at this event, one of the real stalwarts of Monza Rally. Started the rally, as you saw from the highlights clip at the start of the show, was the first driver to get underway. Very often carries the number 1, and he's in the Hyundai. But WRC 1600 is not the top class this weekend, is it? Because we've got WRC Plus for the first time.
Yes, absolutely. Just one small fact before we begin this qualifying. Did you remember that Piero Longhi was actually the co-driver for Valentino Rossi the first time that Valentino did this rally? I'm not sure whether you knew.
Right.
He did it, I think it was 21 years ago with the Renault Megane kit car.
Right.
And Piero Longhi was actually the co-driver for Valentino.
So we can add another victory for him effectively, can't we? Not as a driver, but as part of a team, and a very important part of the team as well.
Well, for sure, I don't think he could have asked for a better teacher for a first time.
That's true. Right, getting underway now as the lights go out. They get this first heat underway. We'll see all the drivers in WRC 1600 twice, so they get 2 heats. And it's not necessarily about winning the heat, it's about the time, and the fastest 4 times. So you take your best time from your 2 runs, your fastest 4 times are the ones that qualify through for the straight through to the final, fastest 2 times. So they're the 2 that will make it through. Piero Longhi, and they're going great guns. You can see much more rapid already, can't you, to the eye? Even before you see the clock, before the times pop up, you can see that these WRC cars are hugely more powerful than the cars you've seen up until this point. Citroën going along very nicely. That huge success, of course, in the World Rally Championship that they had with those 9 consecutive drivers' titles. For Sebastian Loeb did a bit of cameo appearance in the WRC this year. 8 manufacturers' titles in the history for Citroën as well, and looking good here for Stefano Dast, who has been up there in the top 3 in his category in the stage rallies a few times this weekend. He didn't win a stage, but he was joint second with, actually in stage 6 at the Grand Prix stage. He got exactly the same time as the driver was up against, Piero Longhi. So they were joint second in that stage. There is Longhi, and they can see just to prove the point just how close it is again. 0.011 seconds. Longhi just with his nose in front here, but the Hyundai is going to have to absolutely nail this to make sure of it in this first heat. These could well be 2 drivers that we'll see again going head-to-head in the final if they can keep this level of pace up. Stefano Dast, who got, I think it was 5 top 3 finishes in the 9 stages. Didn't finish in the top 3 overall in the category. Still Pirelli, who managed to win by a fraction, by less than a second in the end, over Marco Bononomi, the former GT racer. Right, to the eye, it's still too hard to tell at this point. Can the Citroën make up the time? Enough time here, Stefano Dast. It's certainly a clean run from both of them. We haven't seen anybody nicking the barriers, I don't think, so far, nicking the tyres. getting the back end out of shape. Beautifully done through the chicane there for Stefano D'Ast, the Italian, coming in now on the handbrake, coming back on himself around the hairpin. Quick squirt on the throttle and then back through the chicane. The first of them, because there are two back-to-back with a short linking straight in between them. Careful not to get too keen on the throttle, because that wall awaits if you do. It's going to be under 3 minutes this, sprinting for the line and through, and Longy's done it by 0.33 seconds, 2 minutes 54.24 seconds, easily the fastest time we've seen so far. With over 230 brake horsepower, it's not too much of a surprise but that was a very closely fought battle indeed, especially that first lap. There was just a tenth of a second between them, a couple of tenths quicker on the second run around, so Stefano D'Ast by 3/10 of a second missing out in the end, but still with a good time. He might have lost that one, but could be hard to see anybody getting close to those two. Got some very good competitors in the category, but I think that's a good benchmark to start with, isn't it?
Absolutely. She's just very, very close, but we have to see what Marco Bononomi, let's not forget he was leading this rally last year until basically 500 meters from the end. Tony Cairoli will not be wanting to give up on his chance to get through to the final either. There's still a lot to play for, and this formula whereby it's the fastest time gives you effectively 2 goes at it, and it'll be interesting to see especially how they perform, considering that this year the event is running 1 week later than last year, so the light conditions over the track are changing, and it in the 1 hour before the second round, because bear in mind that the second run of heats will begin in 1 hour, so there will be completely different light conditions.
Yeah, and the temperature will begin to drop. It is worth noting, much warmer than it's been for the last couple of years. We've had all sorts of weather here. We've had snow, we've had fog, we've had rain. Oh dear, not good. We've only got one off the line, unfortunately. Can he get it going?
It's Yates stalled the car at the start, unfortunately.
Can't get it going, can he? So Reese, in his first appearance in this category, the WRC category at this event, his second appearance overall, he's competing in R5 last year. Whatever happens now, he's not going to get a good time. He probably would like to at least have a run around the course to get his eye in ready for later on. I spoke to Reese earlier on. He was massively enthusiastic about this event. He said, you know, we have a tough season, a long season, we have a bit of a break, then we come here for what is a good, fun event. It's an invitation-only event, and Reese Yates was
he's
doing
still
well in the
there,
rally.
so they might be...
Yeah, he's in the way now, isn't he?
Yeah, they'll have to red flag.
Yeah,
they have to stop the other heat and restart it somehow.
Yeah.
Ricci's actually tackled a minor event, the Vedovati, which we call the Monzino, the small Monza, 3 weeks ago on the circuit with his regular co-driver Elliot Edmondson. But to get to grips with the World Rally car, which is a higher spec machinery than the one he used last year. But for this event he called back to his side Denis Giraudet. Denis is a French co-driver, one of the most experienced co-drivers in the World Rally Championship. Won World Rally Championship event alongside different drivers, Didier Auriol, Juha Kankkunen. He actually won the 1,000 Lakes Rally, the Finnish national event, sitting alongside the local hero Juha Kankkunen in 1993. It was 25 years ago. And I was talking to Denis before the event. He told me that his first memories of Monza go back to about 40 years ago when he came here to watch Formula 1. So... no,
it's not happening. Oh no, he's gone. It was the delay, but he got it off the line. Reese did well, didn't he, in the rally? In 9th place overall in the end, and that would have put him in 4th place in his class, wouldn't it? The top 4 were all plus cars, so 5th place in his class he was. And he said to me this morning when I spoke to him that he had, he was a little bit used to the event and the circuit from last year, but not the car. First time he got it was on Thursday, and he's just put a bit too much into that, and it's going to be a stuttering run this. He'll have to go much better in the second run to progress through to the final, but Rees having to use this as a bit of a test run now, so still getting used to the car. But he says, you know, he said, I almost come here as a fanboy because I think he and his brother grew up watching Tony Cairoli, and they get to meet him at this event. He said, I can't believe he came up and had a chat with me, and I'm just here as a fanboy, really. Where else do you get to compete against Cairoli and Rossi? And he said, I saw Rossi in the mirrors on one of the stages and actually stepped aside for him. He said, I wouldn't have done that for anybody else, but I did for Rossi. I bet he's not the only one either. You don't really want 55,000 angry Italians calling for your scalp if you get in Valentino's way and hold him up, do you?
No, not really. I was noticing that when they set off the first time for this heat, Matteo Cristoni was too putting a lot of heat in his tyres. He was actually flicking the car sideways in the hairpin with a handbrake, so that too could be a slight advantage. The fact that he has a bit more temperature in his tyres coming into this round. All this obviously without us knowing what might be the issue with the Rissier car, but it seems to be confirmed when you look at the split times at the first lap.
Cristoni's time's not great either, is it? 1 minute 30, so it's 2:54 is what he needs to be aiming for. It's going to be much more like 3 minutes on this pace. Cristoni finished 12th overall in the Stages rally this weekend. He's going to win this head-to-head easily with the problems that we've seen, the issues for Reece Yates. However, I don't think the time is going to be up for getting him through to the final. He'll have to have a much better run second time around.
Absolutely, and what I was saying earlier is that their next heat is going to be over an hour from now. So,
yeah, what you learn here doesn't necessarily, apart from the way around, doesn't necessarily tell true in terms of, especially tyres, I guess, and what temperatures you're going to need in those tyres and how slippery it's going to be when you get to the corner. You don't get warm-up laps as such, do you, like you would on a circuit race, where you get to a feel for it at least. You know, you're straight into it with rallying. And that's part of the skill, isn't it? How the drivers react and feel for it straight away.
Yes, and the thing is, you know, they obviously swap starting places in the next round. It will be the same pair of competitors, one against each other. 2:57.60.
Yeah, so that's third best at the moment. Yes. 2:54.24 for Longhi, 2:54.57 for Dast, both from the last heat. And well, Yates is going to be 14 or 15 seconds behind by the time he comes through. He had the stuttering start off the line. The car wouldn't get off the line to start with. And the Ford Fiesta then having a couple of issues, losing the back end through the hairpins on the handbrake as well. So not a good time for Yates. Confirm it when it comes up, but it's going to be very slow. Yeah, 3 minutes 17. 0.21. What he's doing here, you see, he's leaving it to the last minute and getting us ready. Now, Marco Bononomi, a familiar face to fans of GT racing over the years, and international GT racing, but also this event because he's contested the event a number of years now. He's been a front runner in it, and he's been a front runner in this weekend's rally as well, from around the factory driver. Last year he finished third in the rally, and he was the runner-up in the Masters show. The former Italian GT champion Marco Bononomi, and it's gone well this weekend as well. And Gianluca has been following the rally and catching up with the drivers all weekend long, but one of the best battles in all the classes that we had was in the WR16 category. Marco Bononomi, Tony Cairoli and Piero Longhi kept on swapping the lead of the rally, didn't they, all the way through?
Yeah, and also Alessandro Perico, Sandro, who was hampered by a flat tyre on the penultimate stage. Cost him a lot of time. He actually finished way back, rejoined for the final stage, but obviously the penalty has put him way back out of the leaderboard.
Led at the end of the first stage, didn't he, Perico? It was looking pretty good for him, but flat tyre disaster for him as we get this action underway. There is the aerial view from our drone camera. Oh, and that was a clattering of the tyres there, I'm pretty sure, from Bononomi from the high shot. How's the damage to the car? Looks okay. Take a bit of a pounding these. Over the jump they go. I briefly spoke to Tony Cairoli this morning. So what do you feel about the jump? Thinking that's going to be one of the drivers out there that's going to be well used to flying through the air, albeit on two wheels. And he said, I would have liked it to have been longer and higher, he said. Typical.
Well, that was one of the main news this year, main new feature this year. Last year we had these 360 full loops around the stages. Chad really showing his talent for off-road driving, comes from Australia, motocross driver, so has been learning, has been having a lot of fun, enjoying every minute. Spoke to him throughout the weekend and obviously described it as a massive experience, huge learning curve, but buckets of fun really, and did really well too. You know, have to.
It's on the first page of the results, wasn't it? That's for sure.
But think about it. I mean, it's the first time you have somebody sitting. First time you're sitting in a rally car with somebody sitting next to you, and then trying to make sense of what he sort of shouts in your ear. It's very, very different for a motorcycle rider. 1:28.77 for the first lap of Bononomi.
That's pretty good, I would say. He's going to be not too far away from the fastest times, the 2:54s that we've seen. Reed trailing, Bononomi with far more experience in this Monza rally, of course. Reed in his first run. It's Reed's motocross career, very impressive indeed, spanning around about 20 years, a couple of decades, multiple Supercross, motocross champion, record holder for most number of main start events in Supercross history as well. Trying something a little bit different here.
He is partnered by Nicola Arena, who is one of Italy's most experienced drivers at international level, with plenty of experience in World Rally Championship, Middle East Rally Championship, and one of so driven for many drivers around the globe. Obviously, English is not an issue for Nicola, and he was delighted with the progress and with the way that Chad was learning, beginning from the small test they had a couple of days before the event, where Chad actually had to qualify, would you believe it, for a license to be able to drive these cars into position. So he had to undergo a small exam, which was given, I believe, by Piero Longhi.
That wasn't far off, 2 minutes 54.8. It's not in the top two, but only by 0.3 of a second for Marco Bononomi. More to come from him. So that's the third fastest time. 2:54.24, still for Longhi the fastest. 2:54.57 for Stefano Dast, and then that's the third best time, 2 minutes 54.8. So just over half a second covering the three of them. Bononomi then in the number 3 Ford Fiesta, winning that one from the debutant Mark Chad Reed, who still held his own there, didn't do a bad job at all, and you would expect he's going to go quicker in the second run. He's not going to be one of the favourites to go through, but it was a good effort. 3 minutes 2.90 seconds was his time. Now, Tony Cairoli, who's second in the queue, previous winner of this event, and the 8-time motocross world champion. And then you have got up against him the unenviable Tassi trying to beat him, number 16, the Italian Fabrizio Fontana in the Ford Fiesta. So this is the head-to-head between them. Tony Cairoli, although he's not in the most powerful category, but with 4 brand new spec WRC cars, which really topped the overall rally, the cars in which Valentino Rossi competes this year. But he was getting in the mix. There were 3 occasions where he broke into the top 3 overall, Tony Cairoli, including the last stage not that long ago before we came on air, where he finished second behind Rossi. So Tony Cairoli doing great things, and that was within the overall positions. But of course he was fighting, as we said, with the likes of Marco Bononomi for the stage victory within the WRC 16 category. He led for a period midway through the weekend, then he dropped to 3rd at one stage. He had one bad stage, and he fought back brilliantly, didn't he, today, and nicked it by less than a second after 3 days, 9 stages, 0.8 of a second he won by.
Yes, and bear in mind that he also got 1 penalty for hitting a cone, so it's a 5-second penalty. He's got off to a very fast start. He really needs to put a top time, because I suspect that, you know, this change in conditions, I'm not sure of the effect it might have. Fabrizio Fontana, we can trust him to put on the show. He's one of the nicest crew. Fabrizio Fontana and Simona Savastano is one of the nicest crews that I have the pleasure of talking to at stage ends. They really embody the spirit of a gentleman driver, having fun, making the most of the experience.
Got that wrong,
though. No, not here, simply not here. But for sure, you know that just the fact that they have the opportunity to be here to do Monza Rally year after year with powerful machinery, have fun, always a smile on their face when they get to the stage ends. It's really the sort of feeling that gentlemen drivers and many more people, many more crews, I believe, should have.
5th overall in the rally, but say winning his category in the Stages Rally. Winner of this Masters show back in 2015, a regular front runner, regular through to the semi-finals and finals, the latter stages. And look how close it's going to be. Well, Cairoli well clear in the end. 4, 5, maybe more seconds after that mistake we saw from Fontana. Went wide, took a bit of barrier with him, went on the grass, and has lost out elsewhere as well. Over the jump, fearless goes Cairoli at 13 seconds, but 1:27, that's the key. It's not who's going to win this one, it's whether that time is going to break in. Now, Bononomi just missed out, and he did a mid 1:28 on the first lap, and he only missed out by 0.3 of a second in the end. So I reckon Cairoli is on course to get the fastest time here, if, and it's a big if, he can hold it together.
It's impressive to watch the handling of Tony's car and how stiff the suspension is set. These latest generation World Rally cars, a lot more recent in concept compared to the Fiesta that he's up against, and still with a lot more suspension travel than we used to in previous machinery. But still, it's been set up as very, very stiff, and we might see it again here. See, in the wheel lifting off.
Yep.
And says something about the way, you know, that the cars are fine-tuned for this final stage, where precision in the tight corners is more important than having the longer straights and as opposed to what is required in the stages. Here we are.
54.2 the time to beat. Blitzed it. 2 minutes 52.59 seconds. Fontana, we know he's going to be way off. He was already 13 seconds down at the end of the first lap. So 2 minutes 52.59 is the new benchmark time, and it's been set by Tony Cairoli. So second quickest now is Piero Longhi with a 2:54.24, and then Stefano D'Ast third now, drops to third with a 2 minutes 54.57. Bononomi only fourth currently, and he would be somebody that's been in the front end of this event before and has been up there battling for the stages with Tony Cairoli. He would be hopeful of getting through to the final, but he's going to have a much better second, well, not a much better second run, a slightly better second run. He only needed to find a few tenths, but the problem is they could all get quicker later on. So in the end it was a 3 minute 12.55 for Fontana in the Fiesta, 2 minutes 52.59 for Cairoli, the benchmark time.
The sort of message he's sending to his fellow drivers in the other cars is, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here, and now the onus is on you to do better. With this, after this first heat, it's currently Cairoli against Longhi for the final.
It takes the pressure off when you get a good first run in like that. Otherwise, from a bad first run, you've got to throw all caution to the wind, and you've only got that one chance. Right.
Meanwhile,
the most powerful category. Right, this fella, Valentino Rossi, I believe he's called. I think he's quite popular, and I think he's quite successful. And I think he's going to be possibly the one to beat here, given that he's undefeated so far this weekend. There he is, Valentino Rossi, back for another crack at this. 4 consecutive victories in the Stages Rally, 8 titles now to his name, twice a winner of the Masters show, and he is in this new category, WRC Plus. So just to explain, Gianluca, by the way, he's up against Roberto Brivio, who was 3rd overall in the rally. He's in the number 63 Fiesta, so 2 Ford Fiestas up against one another. But these are the very latest spec WRC cars.
Yes, with more power, a totally different aerodynamic package, 80 or something plus brake horsepower difference with the smaller level. These cars have been doing the World Rally Championship for the past 2 years, and the Ford Fiesta is actually the car that has won almost everything. 2 driver titles, 2 co-driver titles, 1 manufacturer title. Only left the manufacturer title this year to Toyota, but made a 5 out of 6 in the past 2 seasons. And Rossi started off quite well by nudging that set of tyres and trying to take immediately his marks against Brivio. He too knows that here it's a matter of being fastest. It's the 2 fastest crews that will go to the final. So will set off immediately and try to get the pace. It will actually be interesting to see on these qualifying heats, which are on the 2 laps, where they compare with the other cars, because there will be ultimately a super final where the winner of the WRC Plus class will go up against the WRC 1.6.
And whoever wins that super final is overall winner of the Monza Rally Masters Show 2018 and picks up the Marco Simoncelli trophy named after the late great Italian MotoGP racer Formula 250. Since the world champion sadly I'm sure you know, lost his life 2011, 7 years ago now. Right, Valentino Rossi looking very good at this stage. He's going to be 1.4 seconds up. 1 minute 26.37, so that is easily. He clips the tyres, more than clips the tyres. He sends them scuttling out to the barriers. 2 Bales go over the jump. He continues to attack. Just nudged them with the back end of the car. Sure, the car will be absolutely fine. It looks to the eye undamaged, and he doesn't seem to be slowing down. But the marshals are going to have to recover those between this and the start of the next. The second WRC Plus event, but you can see just how much he's going for it here.
The first time he's on this track with this car, it's also a matter of really finding your marks. And obviously, there was some concern when this spec machinery appeared 2 years ago about this extensive aerodynamic package, and most of all, the effect or issues there might be if ever any elements were lost or damaged while the cars are out on stages. It has appeared that actually they are very, very tough, and there have been some issues for sure. Some drivers have lost the rear wings, which give a massive aerodynamic advantage insofar as they create a lot of downforce. But all in all, I think that all these fears were not just at the 2:50.51.
So that's just over 2 seconds quicker than the fastest time for Tony Caroli in the WRC 1600 category. Did 2:52.59. So even around this course, where it doesn't necessarily get to unleash all of its power, it's still 2 seconds up. So Rossi winning against Roberto Brivio. The battle of the Ford Ford returning for the first time as an official manufacturer entry into the WRC this year. The first time since 2012 with Malcolm Wilson's team, the M Sport team, here this weekend. 2:50.51 then, the fastest time so far. 2:52.46, still a good effort from Roberto Brivio. And that too was fractionally quicker than the best WRC 1600 time of Tony Caroli.
It's 1.7 seconds over 2 laps, so theoretically we're talking about 0.8 of a second on 1 lap.
You get more laps, you get 3 laps towards in the finals as well for these categories. Only 4 entrants in the WRC Plus category this weekend. So now we're going to see somebody that has started to make a name for himself in the world of international rallying, the WRC, for the first time this year. Got on the podium in Portugal and will be in the number 5 Ford Fiesta. It is the Finnish driver making his debut here at the Monza Rally Show. And there he is, Teemu Suninen, and he is going to be going up against the 4th and final member of the WRC Plus category this weekend. And also competing as we get the battle underway. Off the line they go. Also competing up against him in the 64 Ford Fiesta is Lucci, who has had a slightly mixed rally so far this weekend. They all made it into the top 4 in the end. Lucci didn't get into the top 3 in a category which was dominated by Valentino Rossi quite as much as I think he would have liked. Another great start to the weekend. There he is having to go for it now up against Sunderland, who, as we've said, is making his debut here this weekend. Very different for him, but really enjoying it. He was very positive about the event. So he's come up through the WRC 3, WRC 2 as the Finnish driver, and 12th overall in WRC this year.
Yes, it's been the first full season for Teemu with this WRC Plus machinery. Here he actually is doing his first event with his new co-driver, Marko Salminen, who will be alongside him next year. As we said previously, Teemu is the first driver to be sure of a drive in the 2019 World Rally Championship with a Ford by M Sport Ford team. So it was important to get some more mileage with the car. They actually, world-class drivers will be happy to get whatever time mileage they can into the car. But also, it's been good practice to see with the new co-driver how things were going on. Having to bed in, and there will be another number of changes next year. Chris Meek, for instance, will go to Toyota and inherit a new co-driver. Sebastian Marshall, who has spent the last 4 years reading pace notes to Hyundai drivers, first Kevin Abring and then Hayden Padden in the last 3 seasons. So that's another pair which will need as much time together, beginning from testing, as much seat time together before the 2019 season kicks off in Monte Carlo in January.
And there's Alessio Salucci, who's giving it everything here, but was well down, as you saw from the split times at the end of the first of 2 laps. And it is looking good for Timo Sunderland, the young Finn. Back in 2015, he was a winner at the Wales Rally GP in the WRC2 category. Over the jump, attacking that one. Second in the Stages Rally, the Monza Rally here, to Valentino Rossi. Nobody beat Rossi in any one stage, but Timo was the driver that came closest to it. He tied for time with him on the penultimate stage. They got exactly the same time as one another, so he jointly won it, but he didn't quite beat Rossi. He's getting stronger and stronger as the weekend goes on. He's going to try and beat Rossi's time, close to it at least, and he's going to do a very good job, 2 minutes 50.82. So that's second quickest to Rossi, and only 0.3 of a second behind. 2:57 for his competitor there. Salucci is going to need to find something in the second run, but 2 minutes 50.8. Good effort, 0.3 of a second, and getting more and more confident as it goes on. So we've got another run yet, but it's looking like it's going to be those two going for it in the final. Sunderland and co-driver Salminen taking that victory. 2 minutes 50.82 seconds.
It's actually 0.3 of a second only between Valentino Rossi and Teemu Sunderland after the first qualifying heat of the WRC Plus. Seems more than close in my opinion for the second heat.
Yeah, I think so. And so as Rossi had that moment with the tyre bales that he took out, it didn't seem to slow down that much. Otherwise, it was a very aggressive attacking run. It was a slightly smoother run from the WRC start, Timo Sunderland, but not very far away in terms of the overall time. 0.3 of a second between them. They're the quickest two in the category as it stands. So that's the second fastest time overall we've seen around the course. So now we're going to move on to the R5 category. A series of head-to-head battles once again in the heats, because this is the most populated category that we have here this weekend. So we are going to have 6 heats for R5 coming up next in this first part of the show, and we've got numbers 43 and 56 going head-to-head, both Skoda Fabias. 43 is Matteo Beretta, who got a top 3 in one of the stages today. Was in the top 3 in terms of that particular stage. 56 is going up against us again underway, is going to be driven. It's Luca Tassini, who also went well in one of the stages today to get up into the top 3. So the two Italians going head to head. Skoda Fabia is really the majority of cars in the R5 category are Skodas here at this rally. Great looking cars, and the Stages rally that we've had over the last 3 days, we said that the WR16 category was incredibly close, and it was incredibly close in the R5 category as well. in the end, it was when Alessandro Ray didn't actually leave the rally at all until the very last stage. Luca Rossetti and Andrea Cragnola really going head-to-head, but Ray was always up there, second or third, and he nicked through at the end to win by just a second in the end from Cragnola, who didn't have a great day today, did he? And I saw him getting quite livid this morning at the end of the first stage today, at stage number 7, because I think he felt he'd been held up by another driver, and there were quite a few incidents like that today.
Yes, well, bear in mind that, first of all, first thing to be said is that this was a real record entry, 63 cars, and all of the current existing cars in this category. We've had both the Citroens, the S3 and the new C3R5, the Ford Fiesta, Skoda, Hyundai, which actually had a dedicated trophy for the customers here with a prize fund for the fastest, for the best results, and the Italian debut of the Polo R5. It's only the third event that this car has ever contested. The real debut was in October in Rally Catalunya, the Spanish round of the World Rally Championship, driven by Eric Camilli, French driver, and former world champion from Norway, Petter Solberg. And these cars were entered by the Volkswagen Motorsport team. Then the first customers' cars have been sold. The first one has gone to BBR, the team of multiple Austrian champion Raymond Baumschlager, and the second car out, or one of the first customers' cars out, is the one of HK Racing, which actually gave it its first win, its first class win in its first outing. And one of the things that Alessandro was particularly happy of, despite obviously this last-minute twist whereby Luca Rossetti, who had been fastest with the Hyundai and was deprived of the win by this, because of this last-minute penalty, one of the things that Alessandro, who alternates between driver and he's walking into his father's footsteps as a very successful driver, and a team manager who was delighted by this win against his teammate, because Alessandro Cragnola is actually Alessandro's team, Andrea Cragnola is actually Alessandro's teammate with HK Racing. So HK Racing has a 1-2 with cars divided by just 1 second.
Good effort, wasn't it? And Tassini takes the first win in the R5 category by quite some margin. 2 minutes 55.49 was his time, and he's continuing on from his earlier efforts from a couple of hours ago, because he was the winner of the final stage of the Monza Rally, the 9th and final stage. He won just ahead of Luca Rossetti. So Luca Tassini setting the benchmark time, 2 minutes 55.49 seconds for him, 2 minutes 58.52 for the runner-up in that head-to-head with Kelly Beretta. So looked like a really good effort that by Tassini. We'll see how that fares, where we see a couple of quick drivers now. Luca Rossetti is going to go in this next heat we've just been talking about, and as Gianluca said, he was looking like he was going to win the Stages Rally. He picked up the overall lead of the rally at the end of yesterday, at the end of stage 6. He won the first 2 stages today. Didn't win them, rather, but he was leading at the end of those 2 stages. He won the first stage this morning, and then it all went wrong with these penalties, and he dropped down to, I think it was 5th place in the end, wasn't it? So he wasn't even on the podium, unfortunately, having looked like he was going to win. Ray winning it, Cragnola just a second behind, and Domenico Bossa coming through to pick up the final place on the podium in the Stages Rally. So Rossetti with bad luck today. He's in the 34 Hyundai, and he's up against the 57 car of Alessandro Bosca, which is the Ford Fiesta. They rev up, and just stuttering off the line there was the 57 car, which confusingly the sponsorship has the 58 on the bonnet, but it's 57 the number, and it's Bosca who was slow away there in the Ford Fiesta. A much better start for the car you're looking at, the number 34 Hyundai i20 of Rosetta. Very close to the pit wall there on that approach to the jump. The time that we saw after 1 lap from Tassini was a 1:29.7, so that's worth bearing in mind. 1:29.7. His time at the end of the first lap. Tassini starting from the pit lane. As Gianluca said, 2 heats. We'll get 1 start from the pit lane and 1 from the trackside start. But it is Tassini who started from the pit lane in his first heat that set the time, the benchmark time And Rossetti's also starting from the pit lane and had a pretty good start, as we saw. So over the jump, the fixed camera there showing as we're coming up in the next 20 seconds or so to the end of the first lap, negotiating the chicane. Up through the 6-speed gearbox and on the brakes, and you can see the sun starting to get low now. The shadow's been cast long, the tyres nerfed out of the way there from the front left corner of the car, but no damage done and not really any time lost, I would suggest. Trying to catch up, knowing as well with the bad start, going to be a bit more aggressive. Right, let's see what the time is at the end of that first lap. 1:28.52. That's 1.2 seconds quicker than Tassini managed in the previous heat. So Rossetti looking like he might well get the fastest time so far.
Here, actually, they only have one round of qualifying, so it's really the two fastest time, but they only have one attempt, so they have to make the most of it, and that's exactly what both Luca Rossetti and Alessandro Bosca are doing. I think you can start to notice what I was saying before, and actually nudging the same set of tires. It's really, you know, carbon copy of the other drivers' lines on that corner. I was watching and noticing that it's becoming increasingly, you know, the sun is setting, and the biggest part of the track is now in the shade, despite the low sun still getting in the driver's eyes at some point. This is really where conditions might change. If you consider that between the first and the last qualifying heat of the R5 cars there is about half an hour.
The podium's usually in the dark here, isn't it, at the Masters show, and that low sun could be at certain angles getting right in their eyes as well. So trying to make up ground. Looks like the impossible mission is the Bosca Fiesta, which you're watching now. So what about the time? 2 minutes 55.49 to beat, 2 minutes 55.66. It's the second quickest time, but it puts Rossetti on the edge. So I think he lost time on that second lap. Sort of nudging the tyres. I don't think that was where he lost the time, but looking at how much ahead he was at the end of the first lap, I think he should have been really beating that time that was set by Luca Tassini. In the end, he is not far behind, with a disadvantage of just 17 thousandths of a second, but 17 hundredths of a second. But it does put him in that precarious position of being second quickest. And only the top two times from these heats will go through automatically to the final. So 2:55.66 the time. The time of Bosca was 2:58.72. So we know he's out at the moment.
Yeah, it's farewell for him now. Yeah. Currently, Luca Tassini and Luca Rossetti.
So 2 minutes 55.66. These two drivers have got to beat to get into the top two. There's still 3 more heats to come as well. We've got Alessandro Ray coming up in the heat after this. It's Grignola, who was on the podium at the Masters show in the R5 category last year, and who was battling and very nearly won the Stages Rally this year. He'll be one to watch. So number 49, Andrea Grignola, who is in the Ford Fiesta. Both get off the line pretty well, and going up against the number 54 car, which is Giacomo Scatolon in the Skoda Fabia, which you're looking at now.
These are two of the most experienced Italian drivers with most foreign experience. Giacomo Scatolon has been a regular of the European Rally Championship in the past seasons, and Andrea Grignola has also been in the World Rally Championship. We always feel that it's important to try and get some experience abroad, and these two drivers have done it, and would like to continue obviously doing it. Andrea Grignola returned to the Italian Championship this year. He finished in the top 4 and was actually one of the 4 drivers who was still in contention to clinch the overall title at the very last round after 8 events. Andrea finished a very convincing winner in the asphalt championship encompassed within the main championship, Campionato Italiano Rally Asfalto, and as I said, you know, with a slight chance, but still he was still in contention for the title in the very last round. I think that he told me he'd like to, you know, get everything together to repeat the season next year, but only, you know, doing it properly. But obviously HK Racing could be the team to look out for next year. and for sure they have proved that they can, when it comes to preparing cars, managing them, and following a full championship, they surely have what it takes.
128.72 at the end of the first lap for Andrea Crignola, which is a couple of tenths slower than the fastest first lap we've seen from Luca Rossetti, but Rossetti didn't go on to get the fastest overall time, so the second lap is going to be the important one. But he's in the mix for a top 2 time. He's got to keep it up. It's going to be very, very tight, I reckon, at the end of the lap. Scathlon behind in that bright yellow Skoda Fabio. Crignola in the number 49 car. The driver, as Gianluca has said, that was close to the Italian Championship this year, finished third in the end. He was close and got within a second of winning the Monza Stages Rally here earlier on today. Can he get the Masters show, or can he get into the final first of all, and can he get the victory, having been the Neely man a couple of times so far this season? 2 minutes 55.66, the time he's going to need to beat to get into the top 2 and make the final. 2:55.49 is the overall quickest time, so we need 10 seconds or less now to get to that flag out through the second hairpin. All look good. The shadow's getting longer and longer now. Through he comes. 2:54.85. That's the fastest time so far, and he's through so far, but not definitely to the final. So that's Crignola to the top of the times. It means that Tassini drops to second, and it means that it is farewell to Luca Rossetti, because he's dropped to third place. There's a much happier looking Andrea Crignola than the one I saw a few hours ago this morning. He was, as I say, having a proper go. Another driver who should remain unnamed for bulking him in a day which proved, and you know, when you lose 3 days of rallying by 1 second, he's going to look back on that as maybe a moment where it could have all changed for him. But a much smilier, happier and stunt driving effort that from the number 49 Skoda Fabia of Andrea Crignola, who's through at the moment, but we've still got 6 drivers that could better that time. So Crignola and from the first heat, Tassini are the 2 drivers there. So the time to beat now becomes 2 minutes 55.49. That's the second fastest time that we've seen. This is heat number 4, and in amongst it, the winner of this year's Stages Rally, Alessandro Rey, in that brand new VW Polo, and that's car number 55. And up against him, number 52, is Fabio Babini in the Peugeot 208. They go off the line, and this could well be a close contest. Rey is going to be, there he is in the blue machine, he's going to be the favourite, but he's up against a well-respected driver in Fabio Babini. Plenty of international GT racing experience and single-seater racing experience in the past under his belt. So we'll see how they get on, but it is looking good in the VW Polo, which is getting very much to grips with. So he was very happy with the car, and I spoke to him this morning, and came through right at the end, having not led the rally all the way through. He was second or third most of the way through to win it at the end of that very final stage, with his only stage victory, taking it to the overall Monza Stages Rally title. So in and around 1 minute 28. Oh, what's happened here? Babini's a bit of an issue, I think. It just looked like as we cut to him, he was stumbling out through the hairpins. So he missed gear, just stumbles. It looks okay again as he goes over the jump. So I think Babini's going to be second fiddle. Alessandro Rey, I think he's going to be on for the win in this particular head-to-head, but it's his time that counts. And I think he's going to be close, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Fabio is he's a very experienced circuit driver. Managed to find I think it was a very, very last-minute entry for this rally, when he got hold of the car and also getting to grips with I think a new co-driver. Lap 1, 129. I think it's not looking good, is it?
No, it started well and it looked good, but I think he's about half a second down on where he needs to be. He's going to need a flyer, Alessandro Rey, to get into it, but it's proven to be the driver that's come through right at the end so far this weekend. Can he do it on this second lap? But I think he's out of it at the moment. Half a second doesn't sound a huge amount, but when you've only got a minute and 30 seconds or less to try and make that up, it's hard to do. So Alessandro Rey will fight hard here. There's Babini, who's many times raced at Le Mans, as well as 24 hours. 2001 finished in the top 6 as a Porsche driver, and a great 24-hour race, and experiencing something very different here, but equally, I would say, is competitive. So 2 minutes 55.49 he's got to beat as Andre Ray to get into the final, and then hope that nobody goes even quicker than him in the remaining heats. Here he is, coming through the VW Polo, with plenty of experience and success at the Monza event. Always one of the front runners in the R5 category. And can he get through, or is it going to be the end of his weekend here at Monza already? 7 seconds or less to go. One more corner to negotiate. On the throttle, a sprint for the flag now. 2 minutes 55.49. I don't think he's going to do it. No, 2:56.72. Not even in the top three, unfortunately. So 2:56.72, not good enough. 6 seconds behind him with a 3:03. He's going to be Fabio Babini. And he had a stuttering first lap, didn't he? So the VW Polo out. It's been overall a great weekend for him with victory in the Stages Rally. But in the Masters show, game over. He's not through. And so now there are only 4 drivers that can get ahead of our top 2 and break through into the final.
I'm wondering, is the track becoming slower for some reason? Because we've not seen them getting close to the previous time, and should this tell us something about the chances of the drivers who still have to run, such as Giandomenico Basso and the 11-time Italian champion Paolo Andreucci?
Yeah, with only one run, one heat as well, they will have seen that good time initially in the very first heat from Luca Tassini. They'll have watched that, I reckon, or at least got feedback from it and known that, right, you really got to push. So maybe it's the case they're just pushing a bit too hard, being a bit too aggressive.
You know, when, like in this case, you know, you've only got one try, you're obviously going to give it your all, give it your best. But obviously, I suspect that, since I was saying earlier, these light conditions and everything, and there's not a huge difference in temperature between the first heats and now, but there is possibly some substantial difference in the lighting and in the visibility around the track now.
It's dropping noticeably. It's one of the warmer events that we've had. It was well below freezing in the mornings last year, and getting that way as well by the end of Sunday, by the end of the Masters show. But yesterday it was up to about 14-15 degrees. A bit colder today. There was certainly some ice on the car when I drove in at around about 8:45 this morning into the circuit. But we've been blessed with sunshine all the way through the weekend, but not as cold as we used to, but it's definitely getting chillier and the shadows getting longer. This is the 5th heat then. 51 is Giandomenico Basso in the Skoda, and 47 in this one coming through.
That's some footage, some aerial footage to show you just how precise they can be around those tyres. Yes. Giandomenico Basso has had a good season. He won the Italian Championship 2 years ago, 2016, and then his team elected to stop rallying in Italy for the next season and move to the Tour European Rally, which is a new series, was born 3 years ago. Won it the first year with the BRC team Hyundai, and stayed in the series this year and made it back-to-back victory in the championship.
Bossa
129.1.
0.87 of a second. So Reduzzi, we've been seeing the number 47 car, which is another Skoda, Damiano Reduzzi. Not that far behind, but it's the overall times they're going to count. I reckon they're down at the moment on the first lap to where they need to be getting into the mid 2 minute 55s. 2:55.49, the second best time that we've seen. 2 minutes 54.85, still the best time from a couple of heats ago from Andrea Cragnola in the Skoda.
But Giandomenico Basso's time on the first lap is quite close to what we've seen as the best, the fastest time previously, isn't it?
Yes, 128.5 I think is the best we've had. So yeah,
the 129.1 is half a second.
It's doable, isn't it? But it's going to have to go some in the second lap. There's that shot you were talking about again, showing just how close they have to get. They've got to get as close as they dare to cut that line and make the straightest line possible. If you nerf the tyres, you're going to potentially cause some damage, but moreover you're going to lose tenths of a second, which is all it boils down to in these very closely fought battles. Basso
2:55.49 is time to beat to get there. place in the final.
I think he might
Look
be
at the
might be a second or so behind, looking at where he is going into the hairpins. Not quite going to do it, is he? 2:54, 55, 56.99. Not quite. It was a good effort, but he's just half a second or so slower on each of the laps there. 2:55.99. So 1.4 seconds away from where he needed to be in the end. And Riduzzi slower still. Also not making it through, so breathing a sigh of relief is the driver that sits on the cusp at the moment in second place. From the very first heat, look at Tassini, still second quickest, Miola still fastest, but we've got two more drivers to come, the sixth and final heat. And as Gianluca said, we've got someone rather notable coming out next in the number 11 Peugeot 208 of Andreucci, the 11 times Italian rally champion, second in the R5 category in the Masters Show last year. He's had many successes in the category. Alongside him is Anna, his wife, who co-drives with him, and she has won all but one of the titles alongside him. So they've won 10 together, and she used to be a rally driver herself before she started co-driving, didn't she?
Yes, but she did some driving duties, but also some co-driving, and she actually started to co-drive for Paolo with not so many rallies. I think maybe less than 20 rallies under her belt, but some important victories, such as overall victory in Bassano Rally. And she actually did half of the season, half of the 2001 season, which was Paolo's first championship year. So we might as well say that part of the 11th title is also hers. Paolo Andreucci was partnered in that year by Alessandro Giusti and Dan Andreucci. They both had other professional commitments, so neither of them could do the full season. And it was Anna's first time in the Italian Championship in a full season in a World Rally car. So it was an important steep learning curve, but she did an excellent job, and they've been rallying together ever since, as a crew first and as a couple for a few years after that. This year actually their season was hampered by a very bad accident in testing. Paolo recovered immediately and was duly back to driving duties the following week in Rally Roma Capitale, which was the Italian round of the European Rally Championship, but also counted for the National Series. Anna missed that one out, sat that one out, and came back for the following round. But they actually had a lovely first part of the season. 3 overall victories and 1 second place in Targa Florio, but which counted as a victory because the driver who won, Andrea Nocita, who we also saw here in the historic championship, was not entered in the series, so Paolo did get the top score. And after that, 3 did not finish, 3 accidents. So they got back at the final round, which when they were not leading anymore, they desperately needed a win to secure their 11th title, and they duly got that one, and that's the reason they carry also number 11. If you remember, last year they had number 10.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible record, isn't it? And I think the experience of winning those titles must have kept them cool going into that final event of the season. We've talked them up, but Kevin Galladoni, who's in their 41 car, is giving them a real run for his money, and the Hyundai was only 0.04 of a second down at the end of the first lap. They're both down, I think, though, on where they need to be to get into the top 2. They're both in the low 129s. Mid 128 is the best that we've seen on the first lap, so it's going to need a gun second lap here from both of them. They're pushing each other really hard. Can they beat that 2:55.49 to get through into the final, the R5 final later on? It's their only chance to get through in this revised format for 2018. Now with the Italian tricolour colours, the green, the white, the red, number 11 coming through to try and win this first of all, trying to get the time that matters. Paolo Andreucci gets on the gas. It's going to be close between them. Galladoni's heading for the line as well. He might just nick it through. They go. 2:56.96 by 0.24 of a second. He wins what's been the closest battle head-to-head that we've had so far, but neither of them are going to go through to the final. They were just a bit too slow. You see how hard they were pushing at the end as well to make the line. They would have seen each other, I think, over the barriers, heading for the line together. 0.26 seconds was all that separated them. But it's irrelevant who won it, really, because they're both out. And so the two drivers, the two pairings are going to make it through to the R5 final later on. The fastest time by 3/4 of a second was Andrea Crugnola in the number 49 car. And second, from the very first heat that we had, Luca Tassini in the Skoda Fabia with a 2:55.49. So they're going to be the two drivers going through. Not that much to choose between them, and both of them having had a good day and a good rally overall in the Stages rally. I think it's going to be close to call. So 11 titles in Italy. It's not to be a Masters title. There is confirmation of the overall times, less than a second between the top three, but it's going to be number 49, Andrea Crugnola, 2:53s, let alone the 2:52s, which is what he did, so the 2:52.59. So I think you've got three of them battling away to try and join him in the final, probably.
Yeah. And it's been an hour since it's been 1 hour since these cars were on track. The heat between Piero Longhi and Stefano D'Aste took place just over an hour ago. It'll be interesting to see where their stage times are compared to before, given the different light and temperature conditions.
Right, this is going to be very close. They both know what they've got to do. That's the advantage of going in this second set of heats. You know what everybody's done, you know where you need to be, and you know how much you need to improve by. What you don't know is how much everybody else is going to improve by. And what you tend to get in these second runs is either drivers improving by a whisker because they've really gone for it, or drivers having a nightmare because they've gone for it a bit too much and tried a bit too hard. And as Gianluca said, very different conditions now. That light has really dropped. It's going to be right in their eyes at points as well. There are no shadows. The track temperature will still be pretty close to what it was, but the air temperature is definitely dropping now as that sun dips down. And we head towards sunset here. It's a great view as the grandstand there, which is packed, as you can see, as the sunshine glistening through. Piero Longhi then in the number 1 car, who's at the moment poised for a visit to the final, but he's trying to hang on to this by a whisker, and will absolutely not be resting on his laurels, and will know that he needs probably to improve his time to make absolutely sure. Gianmaria Santini is sat alongside as co-driver for this one, and it's all looked good so far for both cars, both the number 1 Hyundai of Longhi and D'Aste with the red Citroën DS3 that you're looking at now. Through the hairpin sections they go. It's going to be close again, I reckon, between them. Here they come together, opposite directions over the line, 0.44 seconds, that's all. But a 1:27.60 for Stefano D'Aste. It's the Citroën, the red Citroën ahead, and that looked like a good first lap time to me. I think it's got a chance here.
And he's done a small mistake in that hairpin just on the long straight before the jump, and that being one of the longest straights apart from this one in the pit lane could have cost him something, in especially when you consider that we're talking really tenths of a second here. It's really down to the smallest detail. In the Grand Prix stage during the rally, for instance, you can see all the work of the teams who are taping whatever they can at the air intakes. And
that was a bit rough and ready, wasn't it, over the inside curve there and over the tyre. Sparks fly as the cars land, which you can really see now that the light begins to fade. But Piero Longhi was a little bit untidy through that set of sequence of corners 20 or 30 seconds ago. Got to go for it. They've both got to go for it. 2:37, so 2 minutes 54.24. Longhi trying to beat his own time, if you like. Stefano D'Aste, who had his nose in front by 0.44 seconds at the end of the first lap. Will he still be ahead when they come to the line? Will either of them improve and get into the top 2 times overall? 2:52.73, yes they will. They both go really well, they both improve, but it's Longhi who improves his own time with a 2:52.73, so he stays in position to move to the final, and he gets very close to the 2:52.59 set by Cairoli, so only just over a tenth of a second between them. So it's still Cairoli fastest and Longhi second. That was a big leap forward, and if he can find that sort of time in the second run, then other drivers can as well, including Marco Bononomi.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Tony Cairoli at the end will be doing the final heat, so he will know whether he needs to push or not, or he can just, you know, be content with trying to cruise through, although I suspect
I don't think
that is not an option.
It's not in the programming of the brain of a competitor, is it, to take it easy in the second run? Yeah, 2:52.73. Stefano D'Asta did a 2:54.19, which would have been good enough to get into the top two had he only not improved his own time. So you can see how important it was. So now the benchmark's really been set high. Now, it was a difficult first run. He didn't get off the line initially. Had to red flag it. Then he had a stuttering start. Then a couple of moments. But let's hope for better things for Rhys Yates in the number 10 Ford Fiesta this time. The largely black-based car with the pink and yellow, pink and blue striped livery on it. And then number 20, who beat him easily in the first head-to-head, was Matteo Cressoni in the Citroen DS3. To the left of the picture, the white car, off the line they go. Both off the line well. The Citroen, I would say, better off the line. Oh, it's gone wrong already for Rhys Yates. Just too late on the brakes. He locked up, skidded. I mean, there's no room for error there at all, is there? Guardrail is just about 2 metres off the edge of the circuit there. So finding reverse gear, fumbling around, and well, Rhys can just liven it up now. So it's been a difficult master show. It was a really good rally for him, into the top 10 overall. 5th in class, 9th overall. But the Master Show, I'm afraid, has not worked out for him. But it'll be interesting to see how he goes. A rising British talent in the WRC2, part of the World Rally Championship set up next year.
He did well in the European Championship and the events he did this year. You know, it's a matter of getting to grips with the car, getting more and more confidence and experience. Rallying is also about learning the stages, and the first time you tackle some events, you still build up your pace notes and correct them at race speed. Yeah. So it is down to experience in a large part.
As we said, bearing in mind he hadn't seen the car till Thursday, it's been a very good first effort from him indeed, which is why he got through to this part of the weekend. It's only the front runners from each category that get through. He made it into the top 6, which is why he got through. But a disappointing afternoon, but he's had a great time. Had a good little chat with him. Really nice guy this morning, and he has loved the experience. So Cressoni is going to win the battle. Is he going to win the war though and get through and get into the 252s, which is what he needs to do?
First lap at 1:30 something does not look promising. Not sure about the split times of the first.
He did a 2:57.6 in his first run, so he's got to find 5 seconds. It's a lot, isn't it?
And it looks like Rhys Yates has actually left the track already. I can't see him.
He's gone to get Tony Cairoli's autograph.
I can't see the car anymore.
You're right.
Oh, here he is. No, there he is.
Definitely had some issues with it, hasn't he, that car? So it may well not all be down to there's not much time to get the cars prepped either, is there, in between the 2 slots?
No, the thing is, when he stalled it at the first hairpin, when he overshot the first hairpin, and then obviously had to reverse, the issue on the second hairpin might be down to not having enough speed restarting from a standing from a still start.
Feet in the tyres. Yeah.
So that would hamper the second hairpin, and at that point, obviously, all hope is gone. So Matteo Cressoni about to end his second heat.
Might be beating his personal best, but it's not going to be going through to the final. 2:58.0 6 seconds. 2:58.06 seconds. Actually, was a bit slower than he went in the first run. Cressoni. I think it will have affected him not having somebody in the corner of his eye racing against, because we see it's really involved in it.
Yeah, but the thing is, with this layout, you don't really get a glimpse of the other competitors. It might seem there's something to be seen when you're doing the night stages, when you do the Grand Prix, when you see the other cars, and here they are. You see already Tony Cairoli lining up behind Fabrizio Fontana. But already Chad Reed and Marco Bonanomi on track, taking positions to the start, and Fabrizio Fontana and Cairoli ready for the final heat. So penultimate qualifying heat for the WRC 1.6 cars.
Yeah, Marco Bonanomi looking to find well, he needed to find half a second before that improvement from Piero Longhi, so now he's got to find over 2 seconds. But it can be done, as we saw from the that big improvement from Piero Longhi in his second run just a few minutes ago. So he'll have got the message, he'll know what needs to be done, and he'll have to fight very, very hard indeed. Third in the overall stages rally last year, runner-up in his class this year, and he's going in the number 3 Ford Fiesta, and he's up against the Australian there, who you can see now, the motocross star Mark Chad Reed, who has got Nicola Arena alongside the 22 car, and he was some distance away from a time which would be good enough to get through to the final in the first run. It's just trying to learn the car, learn the track, learn the experience, and improve on his own time, but he clatters the tyre barrier there. It's not the first time that particular tyre barrier has been struck. This is the driver that has a definite chance of getting into the top 2, beating Piero Longhi and having a go in the final later on. Into the hairpins, and timed that well, didn't he, Bononomi? On the brakes again, you can see all the weight shifts over the front wheels onto those Pirelli tyres, narrower, skinnier tyres and tarmac than they would have on a gravel stage rally setup. And through he flicks through the chicanes. You can see from the body language of the car, Gianluca, that he's attacking and he's being aggressive, but he's not stepping over the mark here. He's not being untidy.
No, but I was thinking that I would have loved to have some footage when he got out of the hairpin on the straight line before the jump. I don't know how far he was from that wall, but he can't have been very, very far.
No, he could touch it, couldn't he?
I think part of it is also down to his co-driver, who has been very successful here in Monza in the past, partnering Dindo Capello to several victories, and one of the fiercest rivals in Valentino Rossi's Monza Rally Show history.
29.26 for Bononomi on the first lap. That's down on where he needs to be. I think by around about a second behind at the moment. So I think he's going to be close to the time that he set in the first run. Isn't quite. I mean, he's been up there, and he could have won his class in the stages run. Quite as far enough feeling at home with this car as we've seen in previous years.
It's he needs a 2:52.72. Needs to do at least 1/10 better than Piero Longhi. So he's still very, very close to that wall. Really pity. If the organisers are considering running the same layout next year, I'd sort of give them a word of advice to have some camera facing maybe at the hairpin so as to be safe, but really it's a matter of centimeters. And here goes Marco Bononomi on the final stretch.
52.7 he's got to beat.
He's going past the commentary box now.
No, I don't think he's going to do it. No, it's going to be 254.55, 254.94. Actually a tenth or so slower than he managed in the first run, and in a 2:54.8 dead, so 1,400 slower. A very good, consistent effort, which shows what a quality driver Marco Bononomi is. But sadly, not enough for him, and he will not be appearing in the final this year. But all round, a pretty good weekend it's been for him.
So Tony Cairoli has his ticket for the final, and Longhi looks well set up to join him there.
Yes, because there are, well, technically he could be knocked out. There are 4 drivers to go. Cairoli's one of them, so there's 3 drivers that could hit him. He's going to be...
It's just the final round.
Oh, sorry, yes, no, you're right.
So it's only Fabrizio
so
who
definitely
is...
in. It's only Fontana that can beat Longhi then, isn't it?
Yeah, but Fabrizio was sort of 20 seconds off the time that he needed to do in the first heat. So, and as I said, he's more than happy to have done the rally, finished it without major issues, having had lots of fun. The Masters show the possibility to say goodbye until next year to all the fans here is a bonus. Which I think he'll be wanting to make the most of.
Yeah, with I mean, there's the last 3 years running, we've had 55,000 crowd here. It's gone up and up over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, it was still impressive around about just under 30,000 the crowd, but it's gone up and up and up. Valentino Rossi's prolonged presence and appearances are obviously up the ante, but the event's a huge thing there. It's only today, in this afternoon, we get a real sense of how many people are here when they all gather around the same piece of tarmac, because it's such a vast arena, this, taking in the Grand Prix circuit, taking in the old banking as well, which was used as Formula 1 track through up to the mid-1950s when it was deemed too dangerous. It's still great to use the historic parts of the course, but it's a huge arena with 55,000 people spread out over a huge area. It's only today, when they all gather together around this piece of tarmac, you realise just how many people are here. And there's lots of them to do as well. Get really good access in the paddock. They're all queued up outside the garages of Cairoli and Rossi in particular to try and get a glimpse, a photograph, an autograph if they can. Lots for them to do with displays and exhibitions of rally cars, street food on displays. Great atmosphere going on until last night, until over 8 o'clock, and it's almost exactly what it did on the previous run. That the same spot, running out wide, not quite as badly this time. But Fontana just getting on the throttle a fraction too early. It's at the front of the car out wide and onto the grass he went, so a little bit leery, but Cairoli's already through. We know he's already got the fastest time, but still important to use this as a practice, isn't it? He doesn't want to damage the car, of course. It won't be that long to fix it before he's into the final, but it's another chance to get your eye in and get as quick as you can, because this final and potentially also the super final to think of.
Yes, and also, you know, with the number of cars running in between his first heat and now, he'll be wanting to check the level of grip, how much more rubber or less rubber there is on the corners. Fabrizio Fontana, as I said, is really making the most of what I said previously, of enjoying himself. And you know,
he's definitely doing that.
We'd all love to. I'd swap places with him even now if I could. So fully understand you know, the joy that you can have in being able to drive this kind of cars around this kind of course.
Well, 2:52.5 is the best we've seen, and he's got even quicker. Was past tense. 2:51.44. And when you watch the run, it's not a run that looks aggressive. He was in full attack mode. It was very, very smooth. That's what we talked about. The competitors that don't necessarily plenty of rallying, don't come from a rallying background, have this slightly different approach to where they drive the cars, which seems to work well at the Monza Rally. And Tony Caroli's smooth, accurate use of the throttle there doesn't look perhaps as spectacular as some of the others, but goodness me, he's quick. And the quickest time in the group, 2:51.44. So he was first and second, wasn't he? Because his other time would have also been good enough to get through to the final. So it'll be Tony Cairoli in the WRC 1600 category against the number one car, Piero Longhi, who also came close with the 2:52.7 to at least the first run time of Tony Cairoli. But in the end, the best times respectively, 1.3 seconds quicker for Cairoli. So he definitely will go into the final as the favourite. WRC Plus now, the 4 cars in that category. Valentino Rossi is the driver they're trying all to beat. He's in this one up against Roberto Brivio. They were first and third in the Stages Rally respectively. They're both in the Ford Fiestas, the red and black of Roberto Brivio, and the familiar blue and luminous yellow colours of the Doctor, number 46, who started this time. They started from opposite ends, so this time he started from the pit lane start side. But Rossi was, in terms of the way the car looked, very attacking, wasn't he, in that first stint? He certainly took some tyre valves out. Here he is then. Second look at him today.
It is, but and we must bear in mind that this class is the one we've seen really as that's the first tyres he's nudged off. And that affected
this
no.
one, yeah.
2:50.51
was his time in the first heat. And Timo Sunninen, the WRC star, also in a Ford Fiesta, 2:50.82. He's going in the second heat. So it was close between those two, but they were well clear. Roberto Brivio was a 2:52.46, and the other driver, Salucci, was a 2:57. So Brivio's probably the only one that could have a go at this, but he wants a much stronger run. And to hope that Rossi and Sunderland go slower, which is probably unlikely.
You know, here too, as we've seen before, it's a case of being over an hour having gone by since the last time that these cars have tackled the course, and here too it's judging the changes in the light, in the grip, and trying to work out what we can do, because here too, as in the WRC 1.6, it's only 15 minutes now between these heats and the final. In between we'll have the WRC 1.6 final, we'll have the Art final, and then it will be the WRC Plus final just before the Super final.
Yeah, the track should be similar. The light will continue to drop though. And to 125.58 Rossi was a really strong first lap, which is going to be close overall to the 250.51 he managed. If the other two together, it would be slightly behind, but tend to go a bit quicker in the second lap. So Rossi with 20 odd seconds now to go, surely going to win this one, and it's whether or not he can beat his own time and make absolutely sure of it. It's again a practice run for the final and the super final over 4 laps to come on these differing track conditions. He takes the cone, he takes the other cone, knocks one over, which gets back up, knocks the other one over permanently. Here comes the clock, it's going to be brilliant. 2 minutes 48 dead. Wow, the fastest time that we have seen, full stop. And he wins by 3.28 seconds over 2 laps. That was impressive. The second lap was mega, wasn't it? 2 minutes 48 overall versus the 250.51 that he did in the first run. So everybody else better watch out, because he has looked absolutely unstoppable so far, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's just like Cairoli in the WRC 1.6. It's also a case of sending a message. Here too, you see, trying out, just taking this marks, and Cairoli, just like Cairoli, sent a message to Pierron. He says, "Look, Piero, I'm here. Don't you think it's going to be too easy?" This is also something between Valentino and Teemu Suninen.
Yes, so Sunderland, well, as it stands, he's already through. Whatever happens in this, it just depends on what his rival does, of course. But the 257 in the first run, you wouldn't necessarily expect Alessio Salucci to be getting anywhere near that benchmark time, would you?
Now he's been the slowest of the pack in the first run, and here too it's a case of, you know, getting the most out of the chance of being able to drive these cars. There has been a lot of discussion whether these cars should have been allowed in this event, and Valentino really said that yes, appreciate that, you know, this some sort of moves the focus on the event, but he was not ready to miss the opportunity. He was not willing to miss the opportunity to drive these cars once. We must bear in mind that Valentino's been driving all sorts of cars on the Monza Rally Show. Like I said before, he began driving a Renault Megane kit car, front-wheel drive, aspirated car 21 years ago, and he's driven all sorts of machinery since then. So obviously these WRC Plus cars were not a chance to be missed, given the opportunity.
So, he's already top of the Hall of Fame with 7 Monza Rally victories. He's got 8 now after today's victory. That's double the next best, which is Dindo Capello, who got 4 Monza Rally wins. Danny Sordo has had a couple in terms of the stages rallies, not the Masters shows, and they're the multiple winners, so more than double the next best now, the very excellent Dindo Capello, the Le Mans winner. So it is looking like, well, it's going to be Rossi, and it's looking like it's going to be Timo Sunderland who goes up against the two-wheel legends, against the rising WRC start, the Finn, the dark-haired Finn with a 126.37. That was 125.5, wasn't it, for Rossi on the first lap? So he's already over a second down.
Yes, but Alessio Salucci is a lot closer to him now than he was in the first run.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's a much better run for him, isn't it? It's going to be, I would think, blitzing the 257 that he managed to do in the first heat, but 250 or 251 might be a little bit too far for him. It's a big step forward, that's for sure. He was 4th in the overall rally. Timo Sunderland was in second spot behind Valentino Rossi, over a minute behind him at the ends of the 9 stages held over the last 3 days here in Monza. Okay, here is Suman. Got to take the jump now, airborne. Sparks fly, lands neatly. Car not unsettled as he approaches the next batch of chicanes. Through there with no problem. And the Fiesta just stepping the back end of the car slightly out as he got on the throttle and snatched the gear, but it was all completely under control. Rally drivers are not prone to go, not worried about going sideways. And he didn't panic, and again he gets close to the cones. He doesn't take them out like Rossi did. What's the overall time going to be like? Will it be an improvement? That's the first thing he's going to look for. Yes, it will. 2:50.17. That's his best time. It's not as quick as Rossi with a 2:48 dead. It's over 2 seconds behind him, but it is a step in the right direction. He's got better and better with every day of this rally, hasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. Also, he's now gone to just over half a second faster Temo than his run, and Alessio Salucci has gone 3 seconds to 2.3 seconds faster than his previous run, so yeah, it is definitely an improvement, and maybe
it's probably the biggest improvement over 2 runs that we've seen from anybody in any class today, isn't it, from Salucci there? 2:57 to a 2:54, 2:54.89 to be precise for him, so yeah, a very good stride forward. He obviously had to think about it, had time to reflect, had probably a bit of advice as well, and had a much better run. So it is going to be in the WRC Plus final, as expected. I think probably for most people that have been following the rally so far, it's going to be Valentino Rossi in yet another final versus Timo Sunninen, the MotoGP multiple world champion, versus the WRC star. There's confirmation of the times, combined times, that looks of it, but 2 minutes 48.00 seconds was the time that got Valentino Rossi through, the fastest time that we have seen from anybody thus far. So we have now to move into 4 more head-to-heads coming up next: the WRC 1.6 final, then the R5 final, then the cars you've just seen, the WRC Plus final, a very brief respite of a few minutes with another on-track show, and then the super final held over double distance, 4 laps. While we're waiting for the next set of cars to come out, some highlights of what we've seen so far in the 1600 category. That was the first head-to-head. Stefano D'Asta, who actually had his nose in front at the end of the first lap in the red Citroën, but in the end lost out to Piero Longhi in the light blue number 1 Hyundai, the light red trim. Piero Longhi improved upon his own time to make sure he got through to his class final. It was a disappointment for Reece Yates though, wasn't it? He had a troubled first run, and into the very first corner it was all over for the British driver in the second run. So in the end he was classified as a DNF in his second heat against Guasoni.
That was just the problem we've seen once again, the problem we saw before. Stalling the car at the first hairpin and obviously not carrying enough speed to tackle the second one in style and with enough power as requested. And we are now getting ready for the Tony Cairoli Piero Longhi final for the WRC 1.6.
That's right, Cairoli fastest in the class in both runs through, both heats. He managed to beat his own time. It wasn't that long ago, was it? They've only had a very brief rest before coming back out on track. So the final gets underway for the WRC 1.6. Is there is Tony Cairoli, and he's going to take some stopping here. You would fancy it's going to be once again 2 laps in this final over the jump. He goes front of the car, lifting up, back of the car, sparking as it lands, and the chassis compresses down upon the suspension, then straight into the chicane. No time to think, no time to rest in this ferocious Masters circuit that we've got. To the edge of the circuit, on the brakes, down the gears, through the widest of the hairpins. It is a hairpin coming back on itself into the right-left chicane. Now is Piero Longhi getting on. He's improving, getting quicker and quicker. They both went better in the second heat than they went in the first. Tony Cairoli has had his nose in front in this one. As I said, in the stages rally, he's been breaking it up, mixing it in some of the stages with the WRC Plus cars and getting into the overall top 3 times for stages, and finished as the winner of the stage rally in the WRC 1600 class in 5th place overall. Piero Longhi, though, with a huge amount of experience, 17 times he's competed in the Monza rally, and he will be going full beans. He'll know what's required. It'll be 100% effort to try and beat Tony Cairoli, who's now on the gas, on the accelerator, headed for the line at the end of the first run. It's going to be close, just about 126.6, not as close as I thought, actually. Longhi, was that? He went through, didn't he? But the clock hasn't stopped. But Cairoli, 126.6, but they look pretty close, within a tenth or two to the eye. But 126, it's going to be not necessarily his best run so far. It's going to be close. But Longhi is giving it a real good effort here, lifting the left rear a couple of times, smoking as it drops back down. But to me, Longhi looked like he was very close as they crossed the line together.
He is, he definitely is. I was thinking about what Piero might have felt like when in the second qualifying heat he came within touching distance of Tony Cairoli's fastest time in the first heat, only to see Tony Cairoli improve that time by over a second in the second heat. And there too, as I said before, it's a matter of sending messages. You know, this level of drivers sort of texting each other, and that's the first time. That's the first car we've seen touch that particular barrier, isn't it? Yeah,
Longhi taking scraping along the tyre barrier there, giving it 1,000% to try and beat Tony Cairoli. You're getting to the last 10 seconds now as they go through the final set of hairpins for Cairoli. Just had his nose in front at the end of the first lap. They sprint for the line. He's going to do it. He's improved his advantage on that second run through. I think Longhi's got a transponder problem, so it doesn't reflect his actual time. They will correct that. It's in the 251s again for Tony Cairoli. And if I was going to guess, and we'll get confirmation, I'd say he won that by probably just over a second and a half, something like that in the end. He definitely pulled away on the second lap, didn't he?
And Tony Cairoli has set the fastest time yet again, 2:51.32 as opposed to 2:51.44, so he's taken another 0.2 of a second off his fastest time. You can see, this is the corner where you can see the huge difference in driving style. Tony Cairoli used to do it very, very clean, just under the steering, while Piero Longhi was always slightly nudging the car sideways. Yeah. And obviously now this is the farewell to the Monza Rally Show.
2:52.34 now they've worked the time out, so it wasn't a bad guess, 1.22 seconds, no, 1.12 seconds behind, 1.1 seconds, that was the difference. I think he was within 2 or 3 tenths at the end of the first lap. He just dropped back a bit on the second, but still that was a really good effort from Piero Longhi. That's his best time as well, so they got all quicker and quicker and quicker with their 3 runs. But the winner, the champion of the WRC 1.6 category in the Monza Masters Show 2018 is Tony Cairoli. He'll be back for the super final later on, where he'll either be going up against Valentino Rossi, not for the first time, or possibly for the first time he'll be going up against Timo Sunninen. We'll find out later, but first up we can concentrate on what should be another fabulous final. This is the R5 category, the most populated category. We've had nearly 100 entries in the rally. That's not including the historic cars, and 60-odd% of them have come from the R5 category, so it's been fiercely contested, this one. Alessandro Ray won the Stages rally but didn't make it through to this final. And this is the driver that set the fastest time in the heats. He just missed out by a second at the end of 3 days of rallying on the Monza Stages title, and it's Andrea Crugnola, third in this year's Italian Rally Championship. He's to the right of your picture in the number 49 machine, and Luca Tassini, who's had the biggest gap of anybody because he was in the first heat, wasn't he, in the R5 category. So he's had a long wait, and he doesn't get off the line very well either, I'm afraid, in the black Skoda, the blue, white and red of Crugnola that you're looking at now. Much better off the line, and already will have been half a second or so clear.
We'll have to wait until the first pass, but for sure there appears to be some time lost there, but we'll have to wait until the first lap. And obviously Andrea tried to put as much heat in his tyres before the start, while Luca Tassini was ready way ahead of Andrea on the start line. And you can see that here too, where it's not harmful to go a bit more sideways in that long corner instead of just using the steering wheel, but a little pressure on the handbrake get you through. And this is exactly the difference in driving style we were seeing previously between Piero Longhi and Tony Cairoli.
And these cars are going to be around about 3 seconds slower than the WRC 1600 cars that you've just seen, based on the heat times, rather than 251s, 254s, 255s is what they were doing. Cragnola with the best time of all, 2 minute 54.85. Luca Tossini, who went before him, did a 255.49. So there's only 3/4 of a second between them. But Tossini, you're looking at now, had a slightly stuttering start. That will gee him up to really go for it, though, and really attack. So he's got no choice now other than to really go for it on the rest of the run. The light's gone now. The sun's completely faded down. The gap between them is going to be 1.9 seconds. So Cragnola, remember as well, these have only had one run each, unlike the WRC 1600 cars. They only had one qualifying heat, so had less experience of this track, and one error is going to be the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking, considering that it's worth noticing that the final in all the groups has been between the same kind of car. In WRC 1600 it's the two high-end-eyes, while there were a lot of models. In the R5, where we've said that there's every possible currently homologated car was in the entry list, in the record 63 car entry list of Monza Rally, and ultimately it's between two Skodas. The car which has won, he's clipping some tires there. Skoda Fabia, which has won the last 3, if I remember well, World Championships in the WRC2 category, so for this kind of cars. And this year won by Jan Kopecky. And the two cars in the final here at the Monza Rally Show Masters Show R5 cars.
The VW Polo of Ray that won the rally, but winning the Masters Rally, it's going to be Cragnola by some distance in the end, 2 minutes 53.16. That's over a second and a half quicker than he managed in the heat. This is what he did in the heat. Well, not quite to this extent. He gets fully out of the car. He drove it along and hung out the window. It's a dab. Climbs on the car, jumps off it, punches the air, and that is a very good end to the day for him. That's a tremendous time, actually, 2 minutes 53, and he blitzed it by, was it 3.5 seconds clear in the end of his rival in that final, Luca Tossini, who's had a very good day himself, and particularly in the latter stages of this rally. You're right, it's Skodas that have dominated the Masters show. There were second, third and fourth Skodas in the stages rally. We had a Hyundai in the top 5 as well in 5th place, the VW Polo of Alessandro Ray winning it, but they're having another go at the jump, but slightly slower and less aggressive this time, is the winner of the final of R5, Alessandro Cragnola. And now he does some donuts for the crowd right opposite the commentary box. We can see the smoke, even though the light beginning to fade here. Round and round 3 or 4 times the donuts, then he goes in the opposite direction. We got the same as well from the other finalist, Luca Tossini, although he ends up on the grass. He was a bit overzealous there. So that's part of the show, though, isn't it, here at Monza? It's not just about the competition side, it's about the great fan reaction and the fan liaison that these teams and drivers have. There are very few events where they can get so close to the stars, and they understand that, and they go out to entertain them, don't they?
Yes, doing the donuts in front of the main grandstand is a favourite. It's a trademark of all the drivers. You can remember the year that 9 times world champion Sebastian Loeb won the final against Valentino Rossi, and duly obliged to say goodbye to the crowd. I think it's interesting to note that one interesting quote from Teemu Sunninen, who said that he liked this event, which he attended for the first time, because there was a lot of free time to be able to give to the fans. In WRC, timing is usually a lot tighter, and yes, there are times where the drivers attend PR duties and are available for the fans, but it's generally a lot less, and it's time off the, shall we say, sleep time, free time, whilst here the nature of this event and the time in between the stages allowed them to spend a lot more time between themselves, because for instance Teemu Sunninen, there was had another fellow competitor here, Aku Pellinen, with an R5 car, and they had been doing go-karting together in the years. Not that they're old, aren't you?
They're still very young, aren't they?
And it looks like he's got off to a better start than Rossi, didn't it?
Maybe, it's close, that's for sure. So, WRC Plus final. There is Valentino Rossi, who is a two-time winner of the Masters show. He's been dominating the weekend so far in every sense. The only one that's come close to beating him is the one that he's up against now, the WRC driver in the M Sport Ford Fiesta, Timo Sunonen. Rossi was the quicker in terms of times in qualifying, but Sunonen has got quicker and closer to his times as it's gone on. This is his first appearance, don't forget here, Valentino Rossi. Forgetting his record in the Masters show, has got 14 podium finishes and 20 years experience in leading around here. So he's definitely got the upper hand in terms of track knowledge. But Timo, a rising star, what can he do? The two Ford Fiestas go head-to-head. It's going to be two-lapper. Whoever wins this one is going to go up against Tony Cairoli for the super final. Whoever wins that is our overall Masters champion for 2018 and winner of the Marco Simoncelli Trophy. Valentino Rossi then, very much with the crowd behind him. And through there, you can see how much rubber has been laid down now there. And although it looks relatively light from your TV monitors, I can tell you it's not. The TV cameras open up the irises and lighten up the picture as Rossi takes another tyre stack out. You look out the window here at Monza, it is much, much darker than it appears here. So the podium will very much be in the dark. The camera flashes go off. You can see them noticeably more now as well. That will perhaps slightly catch the eye of the drivers as well. There is Rossi working at the wheel then. Looking again on the edge of being aggressive, but always in control. In the 46 machine, Carlo Casino's been long-term companion and co-driver at these events in the passenger seat. What's the clock going to give us? It's going to be Rossi after the first run with his nose in front, Casino alongside, but the Finn also looks to be on it on this second lap. Over the jump he goes for the what might be the last time unless he gets through to the super final. And time beginning to tick down. 2 minutes 48 dead, the fastest time set by Valentino Rossi. Couple of seconds quicker than this driver you're looking at now, Timo Sunonen, coming through. Then into the final set of hairpins is Valentino Rossi on the handbrake. Goes right, flicks the back end round to the left-hand hairpin, almost on the grass, but not quite. He's going to take the flag. He's going to win the final. It's another victory for Valentino Rossi. 2:48.47. It wasn't quite as quick as his qualifying time, but it's still quicker than anybody else has managed all day long. A second and a half, just under, behind him at the line with what was a fine effort. He's your runner-up for 2018, Timo Sunonen. But it's Valentino Rossi that is once again master of the Masters show.
You mentioned Carlo Casina. He was co-driver to Valentino's father, also in rallying in his earlier years. And we've said that Marco Sarminian is actually joining them for the first time. I was noticing that consistency is the key, and once the drivers have got their marks, Valentino's nudged, I think he's nudged the same set of tyres in all but perhaps one lap in all the heats. You know that when the one that he knocked off with the rear right corner, he's nudged it gently off the line in almost all the rounds.
Trying to make the track a bit wider, isn't he?
Yeah, but it shows that once he's chosen a line, he sticks to that line, and that's just keeps it over and over.
Well, it was a super effort. I know that we've had this different class structure, so there's within the most powerful category with the bigger horsepower, the better aerodynamics, have already been the 4 cars. So it's been slightly different than previous years, but still, Rossi has won everything this weekend. He's won 8 out of 9 stages. He tied for the stage victory in the other, and he's won every time he's been out in this Masters show. So while we wait for the super final, the last event, the last head-to-head to be readied. Live, we've got drift cars on track, but looking at some highlights. There's Tony Cairoli, who's going to be the other finalist. Now, it's going to be over 4 laps. He's got a less powerful car. And aerodynamics, I don't think, will really come into play around this layout of track. It's the horsepower, that kick out of the corners, and ultimate top speed, about 50 or so brake horsepower difference. Rossi's car is going to have the advantage by over Cairoli's Hyundai. and 4 laps in which to stretch that out as well. So it's a big ask, isn't it, for Tony Cairoli? However, this course, Gianluca, is punishing, and I think compared to last year, we've seen some tyre nudges, but we've seen less drivers actually having a proper off and hitting the tyre wall fully on. And that doesn't mean, though, that it can't catch you out. And if Rossi clips another tyre barrier a bit harder, it could all be over very quickly. We've seen retirements from this, from finals indeed, over the last few years. It's not a given that he's going to win this one.
No, and another thing that I was listening is, as you said previously, this is really the first time that we've had a 4-lap final. So it's one thing is to keep the rhythm on 1 lap, one thing is on 2, but to double that amount until now, and with this lights out, I was sort of half thinking I don't see them fitting extra lights just for the final, but it's going to be interesting because
it could do with them.
Yeah, it could. I mean, obviously the view we have from our commentary box is not the same as it appears on TV. There's a lot more light on TV than we seem to be seeing through our windows, albeit because of the tainted glass. But
yeah, no, the bit of the window that's not tinted, you can still see it's in 5-10 minutes. That's going to be not completely dark, but very close to it. So it's borderline. It's going to be tricky for them. It's compared to some of the 20-odd minute runs that they've had in the stages, only 5 minutes to concentrate, but it is concentration required all the way. There's some great names appearing at this event over the years. We've talked about many of them already. Sebastian Loeb, the 9-time World Rally Champion and winner of this event. Tino Rossi here, of course. We've mentioned Dindo Capello. Kelly Alboreto has competed here as well, from the F1 racer, from the Le Mans winner Marco Allen, the 1978 WRC champion. Ken Block has been here. Jean Alesi, Grand Prix winner, has competed at this event. Who else have we had? Giancarlo Fisichella, Marcus Gronholm, the 2-time World Rally champion. Robert Kubica was a winner at this event. Good to see him back in Formula 1 next year with Williams, isn't it?
yes, and he won the event and the Masters show. And with a very, very convincing drive that year. 4 years ago, was it?
It's 2012, isn't it? I'll check in a minute. I think it was 2012. Sebastian Loeb been here. Colin McRae, the late great Colin McRae, has appeared here. Thierry Neuville, we've had the last couple of seasons. Danny Sordo, who's one of the front runners in the current WRC layout. Neuville, the runner-up to Sebastian Ogier this year. Alessandro Zanardi, who not just is a great racing champion, but a great Paralympic champion, of course, these days.
And Andreas Mikkelsen, who shared driving duties with Thierry Neuville last year.
That's right. He did.
I spoke to them in Rally Catalunya this year. They would have liked to be back. For some reason it was not possible, but for sure they are amongst those who have really liked this event and who have liked to be back, and who we hope to have back. It's the same thing that, just like Rissy Yates said he enjoyed it. Yeah, Chad Reed said he was looking forward to have the chance to come back next year. So it's a favourite for drivers, and they all seem to agree on that. And you can believe them when you see the fun they have on this short stage. It's the ideal mix, I think, between competition, the competitive spirit, and also the fun, the fan time. We've been blessed with glorious weather this year. Haven't always been that lucky.
No, we haven't.
But even in the rain and even in the mist, I think it holds part of the charm. Not for 3 days running, but
maybe not for the marshals. 2014 it was that Robert Kubica won both the Stages Rally and the Masters Show, and was the last person to win it other than Valentino Rossi, because Rossi's won the last 4 on the trot now, hasn't he, with Carlo Casina, and he was in a Ford Fiesta as well. So Fiestas have won 5 on the trot now. The Citroen DS3 of Danny Sordo in 2013, the last non-Ford to win it.
Yes. This is part of the show. This event is, after all, called Monza Rally Show, so this is the show part.
Yes.
Rally part will resume. Rally action will resume after this interlude. But it's the thing that makes Monza Rally Show special, is the fact that there's fun for the whole family. I would say you can meet the top stars of motorsport, but as well as top stars of other sports, VIPs.
Yes.
There's action, there's rally action, there's drifting, lots to do for the families, for the whole family.
Yeah, it's a big family event, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the kids, it's so exciting being out here at 7, 8 o'clock last night when it's dark and the cars are coming towards them with lights. You can get all the way around the circuit pretty much as well if you venture out into the park. And it's got this unique setting, hasn't it? Well, not unique, but very rare setting of having a racetrack almost in the middle of a park, the biggest park in Monza. And it's on the drive into the circuit, you've got people on bikes, runners, people walking their dogs on a typical Sunday morning after the end of the season in the winter sunshine as it's been this weekend. And then you drive 100 yards around the corner and you've got all this going on right in the middle of it. Bagsy there then back in, and Linda around part of the team that's been entertaining this weekend on every single day. The Monster Energy drifters with lots of smoke coming off the tyres right in front of the grandstands and getting set for another burnout or donut or something in a moment. I suspect it's going to go out in a blaze of glory. But in the 5 minutes that we've had since the previous final, looking out the window again, it's got even a bit darker, hasn't it? And without lights, it's going to be tough for them by the end of the fourth lap, you would think, to see where they're going.
Especially with all the smoke that Bagsy, Biagioni and Liam Doran seem to have left on the track. It's really, I think, the best way to end a lovely weekend of motorsport action. Fun for the whole family. You can see it even in these images, in this footage. There's fans of all kinds, of all ages, and kudos to the organizers who every year try to tailor their event more and more to broaden the target to which the event appeals, the activities. We've had lots of all the current World Rally Car, the Plus versions on show.
Yes,
within the exhibition area.
Yeah, out of the paddock, but in an enclosed arena, if you like. So and there's been a remote control car race. It seems even more family orientated this year. There's something for everybody. We have plenty of dance and rave music going on in various platforms around the paddock as well. But a lot more kids and families, I think, than I've ever seen before. Lots of them supporting Tony Cairoli, and probably lots more, I think it's fair to say, supporting Valentino Rossi, two great Italian heroes. And the word is often overused, but I don't think many people would argue that the word legend is applicable when it comes to Valentino Rossi. What a great, not just sporting hero he is, but all-round hero to several generations of Italians growing up now. Will there ever be another like him? I'm not sure there will.
Well, we've had quite a number, if you bear in mind Giacomo Agostini won amongst them 15 world titles, but we must not forget that Tony Cairoli too has the same number of titles in 9 world titles in motocross.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's we tend to forget that it's really the top level sportsmen in their different categories, and obviously he does not, perhaps not all get the same recognition and same amount of media exposure as they would deserve, but it's definitely important to know that they're there and that they keep the name of motorsport and the name of Italy, for that matter, up high, as did Marco Simoncelli. We've just seen his picture on the arch, in whose name is now the trophy for the winner of the Masters show. And it's in some way maybe fair that it's really two drivers from the motorbike world who are going to be fighting it out to win this Masters show on the 2018 Monza Rally Show, Marco Simoncelli Trophy.
Absolutely. Cairoli beat Thierry Neuville when he won the Masters show overall last time. It's a different affair this time, though. He's up against a more powerful car, and he's up against Valentino Rossi. 4 laps of the super final, the first super final that we've ever had, the first 4-lap race that we've ever had here at the Masters show. Get underway, and there you can see lights on and lights from the grandstands, and bearing in mind that the cameras are lighting up the picture much more than it realistically is, that it is almost dark out there now. We've gone right to the end of the weekend, And Valentino Rossi will go all guns blazing, so will Tony Cairoli. Visually, to the eye at least, from the exterior, the style is that Cairoli's a bit perhaps smoother of the two, a bit less likely to clip the tyre barriers and so forth. Then again, Valentino Rossi's got another 50-odd horsepower to try and control. He goes through to the left-hand picture down the pit lane, slightly exceeding the pit lane speed limit that you normally have as part of a circuit race, but we're not worried about that this weekend. Over the jump, and sparks fly again for Tony Cairoli. It won't feel like a jump to him, rather just a small step really, won't it, compared to what he's used to doing. And he's giving it a real go here.
Yeah, it's the first time that we see such different spec cars one up against each other, apart from if we'd been watching during the Grand Prix, where obviously the late runners, the WRC class, are all mixed up together. So it was actually interesting to evaluate their performance, and I spoke to a number of drivers at stage ends during the weekend who said, yeah, we stopped, sometimes they stopped to let Valentino or the more powerful cars go by, and then they would just follow up behind them just to see what the real difference in performance was, to see them go away on the straights. It's really, this too is something that is interesting, you know, to be always able to pace yourself against different opponents and different machinery. It's all part of the game. It's part of the magic of the Monza Rally Show and of the Grand Prix stage.
Well, Tony Cairoli over the stage rallies is the only driver to get into the top three that wasn't in a WRC Plus car. So he was the only non-plus spec car to break into the top three. It was only a short stage, the first stage, but he was third in that one. And he got up twice today. He was in the top three, stages 8 and 9, third in stage 8, second overall behind Rossi in stage 2. So he's had a great day so far. That was enough to propel him just by a few tenths of a second into the victory for the WRC 1600 class for the Stages Rally. And he's already won his class in the Masters Show. Anything he can achieve here is a bonus, really, because he's not expected to beat Rossi, given the machinery and power difference, but he just wants to give a good account of himself. I tell you what, though, as across the line, 0.28 of a second, he's down, but he's not down by a lot.
And we're at the halfway mark.
That's impressive, isn't it? I didn't think he'd be anywhere near that close. I thought at least a second or so, second and a half behind. That's a very, very good effort. So they've already done the kind of distances they've been doing in the qualifying heats and their own respective class finals. Now it's uncharted territory as they go into the third and fourth laps around here. And he'll have possibly glimpsed through the barriers as they cross the line in opposite directions together. The fact that Cairoli was close to him here, and that will mean that Valentino Rossi knows he's got a fight on his hands here.
But it's a huge improvement for Cairoli. If you bear in mind that Valentino did just under 2:48, and his fastest time in the qualifying heats was 2:48.0. So Valentino's just slightly below that mark, but Cairoli, to reach that sort of time on the first two laps is a massive improvement from the times he had in his
2:51.22, wasn't it, his best in the final? Did
2:51.4
and then 2:51.2, and now he's done a 2:48 something.
It's really closer than we all, I think, thought it could have been before the final.
It's not Rossi slowing down, this is Cairoli getting quicker and quicker.
And he's now actually in front.
By 0.68 seconds, so he's turned that around by 0.8 of a second. I don't think anybody here would have expected this, but he's absolutely flying, Cairoli. And again, Rossi's going as quick as he's gone all day long, but this is Cairoli just pushing that car to the limits. He's got quicker with every single run so far today, but this is a giant leap forward. It will be a real shock if Tony Cairoli wins this and takes his second overall Marco Simoncelli trophy, and he's on course to do it by just over half a second through that last timing run. At the end of 4 laps, though, will he be able to hang on to it? It is going to be far, far closer than anybody envisaged. We're watching Tony Cairoli giving it everything here on full attack mode, but Rossi will be trying to fight back here, trying to get the victory. More than 5 minutes have elapsed now. It's gone by in the blink of an eye. They've had no respite. They're from chicane to hairpin to chicane to jump. There's no chance to have a breather. It's an intense battle that's going on here, both with the car, with the circuit, and against one another. 5 minutes, 20 seconds have elapsed. We're almost there. Where is Rossi? Who's going to get to the line first? Will it be Cairoli, the underdog, or will it be Valentino Rossi, the most successful driver at this event ever? We're about to find out, because the flag is going to be readied in the next moment, and it's by 0.59 of a second. Tony Cairoli wins. 5 minutes 34.04. Incredible effort that, and just over half a second between them as they cross the line in unison, and somehow Tony Cairoli has done it. He's won the overall event, he's won the super final. It wasn't meant to happen. That was an incredible performance, because as we said, Gianluca, Valentino Rossi was not backing off. That was him going as quick as he's ever gone in any of the previous runs. Cairoli drove the wheels off that car.
Yes, it's a massive, massive achievement, and looking at the stage times, I mean, we saw it before. We saw it happen before. Valentino was on the pace. It was exactly on the pace he had shown during qualifying, but Cairoli really did something possibly unthinkable, special. It's the mark of the chapter, and he's the one who gets to do the donuts first. 5:34.04, 5:34.63. So that's 59 thousandths of a second over 4 laps. So sort of 15 hundredths of a second per lap that was. And there's a huge grin on Tony Cairoli's face, because he knows what he's just achieved. Fantastic effort that. And that will be, I think, even more special than his first victory a few years ago, won't it? Because of the manner in which he did it. Eleonora Mori as well as the co-driver. Valentino Rossi's not going to be deprived of still lining up the tyres and doing some donuts, though. No, I mean, the season's over. Don't need the tyres anymore.
Good job, because there's not many left. Down to the rims in a minute. Wow, that was fantastic.
It's also some sort of tribute, isn't it? I mean, Valentino, going around, Tony Cairoli is paying his respect to the other driver and to his rival. And well, that's the way I like to see it.
I think so.
Perfect end. We said it before, to a very good weekend. Trying to
we just at that halfway point, we were almost in shock, weren't we? We saw that he was close, and then after the third lap he actually got ahead, and then you start to think, can he really? No, Ross is surely going to come back at him, and he lost a bit of time on the final lap, but not much. Rossi pulled him in by less than 0.2 of a second, and true sportsman that he is, Valentino Rossi still waves to the crowd, still has a huge smile on his face. He's won many, he's lost a few, but he always entertains, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Now it's Tony and Eleonora's turn to go back on the roof. Eleonora is the regular co-driver of Luca Rossetti. They've won the International Rally Cup. It's a series in Italy for the past 2 seasons, driving R5 cars against higher spec machinery. And first one to congratulate Tony and Eleonora Mori's Andrea Adamo, customer racing manager of Hyundai Motorsport, Italian engineer, has built the customer racing department from scratch. Has enjoyed the world title in WTCR of Hyundai with Gabriele Tarquini, yet another Italian, and possibly the oldest, shall we say, more experienced driver to win an FIA title this year. And Luca Pedersoli here, another driver and part of the Magneti Marelli Checkstar team, was teammate with Tony a few years ago when he did this event as winner, and all the other drivers there waiting to congratulate themselves. Luca Murdolo, Daniele Periccioni, team manager of HMI. It's really sheer joy.
Here we go. Let's have another look at this. You spotted it straight away. They're off the line together, weren't they? Really, really good start from Cairoli, and he just kept that ball rolling, kept on the momentum. Rossi was, I mean, you can't really say that Rossi did anything wrong. I don't think he made a mistake, clipped a barrier or anything in that, did he?
No. It's a huge improvement by Tony in the level of performance. Valentino was very, very regular, absolutely on the pace as he was in the previous heats in his final. It's really Tony who drove the wheels of the car.
As Rossi negotiates in the hairpin, it's all tied in. It's on the line, it's not on the grass.
Yes,
Cairoli, maybe in the hairpins, that was where he gained it. Really did attack, perhaps more than he's done so before, didn't he, into the hairpins. He maybe nudged a couple of Perez. Well, there you go, to this next left. God, how close was he? A couple of centimetres away at most, isn't he?
Yeah, it would seem at some level, but see, that was Valentino nudging the tyres there. It would seem at some point that he's slightly changed his driving style in the hairpins. I'd have to watch the footage from the previous runs to
feel that's where it came from. Tony last year, a new co-driver this year, Eleanor replacing Danilo Fapani was with him last year. And what a partnership that's been. It's going to stick with that partnership, I think, the way they've gone. It's been a super day. He's come from behind to win the Stages Rally, and he's come from behind to win the Monza Rally Masters Show 2018.
Absolute.
So, time for some more selfies, autographs, but they've got to try and make their way to the podium. Gianluca, we're about to wrap up our coverage of this year's event, but it's been another fantastic weekend, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's been really 3 days of motorsport action, 3 days of emotions. The perfect weekend, really, blessed with glorious weather. All the sorts of cars we could hope for. A record entry in our 5 WRC Plus cars, all the best drivers from all different sports. The perfect mix, I would say.
Our first super final, our first 4-lapper, and a real surprise victory. So Gianluca Nattaloni, thank you so much for coming up and all your support this weekend here at Monza. It's been a pleasure to commentate with you again. Hopefully we'll be back in 2019 to see what's become a traditional end-of-season fantastic event. Valentino Rossi, winner of the Stages Rally, but just missing out this year on the overall Marco Simoncelli Trophy. To that man, Tony Cairoli, who has blown everybody away with an underdog performance in that super final to win after 4 laps by less than 0.6 of a second.